Good evening, one and all. Thursday night this time is the stream night. So, welcome to the What If Roundtable for this week of the 11th of November. I'm MasakoX, and joining us is our regulars of Haverok.
Hello.
And, of course, Sophie B.
Hello.
Who's had a major surge in terms of subscribers and does not know how to handle it right now.
Thank you.
She's
Thank
so
you.
excited and she just can't hide it.
Yeah. Yes, but basically the rules of the game here is that this is the round table, and thank you very much, Seaton Tube, for the master like. So if you want to become a member, you just press the join button down below the bottom of the screen, and you become a member. It really does help support the channel. And basically, if you want to have your what if read out, then all you have to do is leave a super chat like Jared Glasspool did, and you can basically get your what ifs done. So I'm seeing a lot of people are starting to do that now. Let's get moving, shall we? So again, leave a super chat down in with the $sign down below the chat thing, and then we can get moving. So the first one we got is Futo going, what if Goku hadn't improved enough so he used Kaioken against Hit, he would destroy himself? And I'm going to play the sound for the first one. I'm sure that won't be the last time we play it on this stream. But basically, we were talking about this. Yeah, if Goku basically couldn't use Kaioken against Hit, well, he would have lost. Put it straight and simple. And there wouldn't have probably been that desire to then challenge him again before the Tournament of Power. Would you say?
I mean,
yeah.
And like the Earths would have been switched, so it could lead to some fun stuff. Considering that Champa clearly has a different way of managing stuff than Beerus, and maybe slightly better than his brother. So hey, it's mostly a conjecture, but it's a fun scenario in my opinion. Also, they wouldn't become Goku and Hit wouldn't become frenemies as fast.
Yeah, no, it would have taken a lot longer, probably even longer than with like Vegeta or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, no, that's fair. But Podo is in next with a bit more of a silly one. What if Zamasu was way into chick flicks and rom-coms? Well,
what do you mean? What if?
Well, they totally are. Because think about it, they're in that log cabin in the woods. They've got to be doing something other than drinking tea. They're drinking tea and watching probably Last Christmas, now coming soon to cinemas. But basically, we all know, and Sophie did point out before the stream, Zamasu, he's a crier.
Zamasu is totally, he's a crier. He's definitely got feels, and I could totally see him cuddled up on the couch with a cup of cocoa and wrapped in his blanket, just bawling his eyes out. And yeah, like, I could see that. But if he did like rom-coms, he wouldn't be able to bring himself to end all mortals, because otherwise he wouldn't be able to get his fix.
Exactly. It would be the metaphysical story. Perhaps mortals aren't all that bad after all. Just lamenting all of that.
Yeah.
Red Dragon Force 2. What if Gohan met Whis early during the Z-Sword training? Now, this is something I know Haverok mentioned that he particularly liked this scenario. But, Sophie, you said that why would Whis be there? So,
yeah, because the difficulty with adding Whis to a story as an individual is that he really isn't an individual. He comes pre-packaged with Beerus pretty much everywhere because he's an angel attendant. He's sort of supposed to be, his entire purpose for being is to be pretty much attached to, at the hip, to Beerus. So if Beerus is still asleep, there's really no reason why Whis would be off of his planet. And so you have to ask yourself, okay, well, how is Gohan meeting him in this scenario? Why would he interact with Gohan and any other mortal if Beerus is still napping? And also it would raise tons of questions as far as Shin goes, because Shin wasn't even like properly aware of gods of destruction at the time, because the Akira Toriyama wants to hammer into our heads that he's a pathetic Kai.
Yeah, they do tend to like to do that. That is definitely something. But again, it would be cool, but there'd be a lot of questions. So, but Red Dragon Force has another one.
Yeah.
What if Farsha was Vidal's mother's mother? Well, I can take this one. In short, this would make Pan even more likely to be the legendary Super Saiyan. I still stand by my theory, is Pan is the legendary Super Saiyan that we have been foretold. It's not Goku, it's not Broly, it's Pan. I still stand by that video. And Alex Mellinger.
I agree.
Mellinger, thank you very much for becoming a member. Welcome.
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 D21 Pro. What if some arcs in Z were replaced with Z movies as story arcs? Example, replacing the Android saga with the original Broly and Cooler arcs. Well, D21, all I would say in that regard is basically take a look at my What If DBZ Movies Were Canon video, and I'm able to shoehorn in the arcs pretty much into the same place as the series were. So,
and I chime in really quickly that some of the movies, remember that they rely on some of the original arcs having place.
Yes, exactly.
Some of the stuff happening because they refer to it. So
yeah, exactly. So I think the World's Strongest is one of those, definitely. Yeah. Next one, Red Dragon Force 2 says, what if Gohan, Videl, and Piccolo opened a dojo to help humans awaken their ki, while also giving kids and students a place to study as well? Well, again, this sort of does happen, but in book form, with Gohan doing his breakthrough book in Age 804, where he reveals the art of ki control to the populace. But this is saying if this happened earlier, like just after the Buu saga. And I think Sophie said that it really would depend on whether Mr. Satan would actually back it, which he probably would, because,
yeah,
my daughter Videl and my son-in-law Gohan are doing it. Why not?
Yeah, pretty much. After the Buu saga, Satan Dojo and Hercule as just a person, their popularity is at their peak because he's now saved the Earth, quote unquote, twice. And with Gohan being married to his daughter, all Videl would have to do is ask, "Hey, Daddy, will you help get Gohan's dojo off the ground?" And all he'd have to do is throw a little bit of public backing and money towards it.
Yeah.
And if Gohan is any decent at being a teacher, which we kind of see that he is, with how quickly Videl learned, but she's also super talented.
Yeah.
It would probably mean that there would be some fresh blood as far as humans go that are becoming decent warriors with knowledge of ki control and stuff like that. But it would take them a while to really change up anything as far as like the status quo goes. It takes a while for humans to reach those kinds of peaks.
Because in online it was due to them having some Saiyan blood because they interbred with Saiyans, and that's what
just
made
like
them
some
stronger.
kind of latent thing. But yeah, again, it really depends on that. It could be cool, but it depends. It's all in pin on Mr. Satan backing it, which he probably would. The Comet Platypus. What if Kuriza was canon, working with Cooler? You guys really like Kuriza, don't you? I mean, just like
I'm already making notes. I will try to make it work. You know, guys, that I like everything Frieza race related, but even I am looking skeptically at Kuriza. But
if
there is a demand,
we might do a lightning round. Like as a bonus video in the week, and just like say, here are the most bonkers what ifs that we can think of that could work. Like
maybe
Master Rosie, maybe not, but like
Master Rosie versus Kuriza, Master Rosie versus Perfect Baby.
Yeah, perfect. Baby. George J. What if Goku trained as an Ozaru? That basically would be, in short, you get what would be with like Vegeta and Raditz or any other Saiyan who's more used to it. Like we know that people they are trained because in the Broly movie, Paragus points out to Beat that you have not been exposed to the Saiyan Great Ape power, so you wouldn't be able to control yourself. So basically that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, we don't know whether or not Ozaru we don't really know whether or not training in Ozaru would really give anyone gains of any particular note. And by the time they've unlocked like Super Saiyan and stuff like that, the Ozaru transformation is very much left in the dust. Unless you're going based on like the GT storyline where Super Saiyan power can transfer into the form, you know, like the precursor leading up to Super Saiyan 4, the Golden Ozaru, you're really not dealing with a power multiplier that's anything worthwhile. And as for something like Broly with his Wrathful form, that I feel has got to do more with the fact that he's a mutant exposed on Vampa for so long than anything else.
Yeah, no, I would say so. Now, Podo is next. Whenever you dismiss a what if where any of Frieza's men turn good, whether he just kill them, there's one thing you're forgetting. The Z Fighters, as soon as they make the wish to revive anyone killed by Frieza and his men, so them too. Well, yeah, technically that's true, but it's at the same time, if they've turned good and sworn off Frieza, depends. It depends on how quickly or how fervently they do an about face. They do a face turn. That's the thing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But say for
and
example,
even then, there's no guarantee they'd hang out with the folks on Earth.
No, they probably would just end up like kind of going around in space and dismantling the Frieza Empire for the Z Fighters. So they probably would end up... It's like the Ginyu Force, for example. I think we were talking about this in the break. Sophie, you were talking about they pretty much just go and do what they were originally parodying a bit as in Super Sentai. They just become like a galactic force for good.
Well, yeah, I mean, with Frieza and Cold no longer there, especially if Cold decides to put vengeance for, you know, in their minds, they don't realize Frieza survived the explosion of Namek, etc. In their eyes, they think, okay, well, Frieza was destroyed. Cold is probably going to be going after your guys' heads. We don't really want to be anywhere near that, but there's going to be a power vacuum out there, so we can go and finish up dismantling the Empire or stabilizing it for the better, you know, whichever. Basically going and being the Super Sentai.
Pretty much, yeah.
Toku Sentai, Toku Sentai.
Toku Sentai.
Literally. George J. What if Chiaotzu didn't attack Nappa, ordered by Tien to stay behind? Chiaotzu survives the Saiyan attack, but his friends don't. Feeling guilty, he volunteers to go to Namek to help resurrect them. You pretty much answered your own question, George. You know, that's what he would do. I mean, that's the thing.
He will have his potential unlocked.
Yeah, he would do. But as we know, and I'm doing in a what if as well. Just because you have your potential unlocked doesn't mean that you'll get stronger. It just means your potential in what you specialize in is unlocked.
Maybe
example, if Bulma's potential was unlocked, her brain, the brain capacity would be maximized. Like, that's pretty much how it would be. So that's how it would work. And Dende became a healer. That power was unlocked to him. So Chiaotzu, probably like telekinetic powers and stuff like that, because he can float, and maybe he could become like the world's the best cook. Because they do like to show the little guy cooking a lot.
Yep.
So yeah.
Also, maybe we would learn more about his backstory before the Crane School, and we would get an answer that Anime Ager is asking for years. What's a Chiaotzu?
Yeah. What? And how old is he?
Yeah.
Exactly.
How old are you?
Cody Connor. It's a bit of a dark one. What if while everyone was on Namek, Dr. Jiro found out about Chi-Chi and turned him into an android?
We are working on something similar, so stay tuned. But basically, it's going to be dark.
It would be dark, and Goku...
Yeah.
If Goku found out, he goes Super Saiyan Grade 2. Basically...
Nah, I think she would get him, while she would prepare dinner for him, and dinner would be a trap.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, that would be the most cruel way to kill Goku.
So you're saying that if Chi-Chi was turned into a villain, she would poison him?
No, not poison, but he would be eating
or just
dinner,
set a trap for him at dinner time.
Yeah. I mean, that would be the most cruel way. That would hurt Goku the most. Now, Son Goku, I created an android that will hit you when it will hurt you the most.
Hits you in the stomach, but not in the way that you expect.
I feel like Chi-Chi has more honor than that. Like, even if she had been turned into like an evil android or something, I think that her personality would override her doing something like that. I feel like you'd almost instead get a replay of the fight from the Budokai. I think you'd wind up seeing them face each other again, and it would be kind of like a dark mirror to when she fought him then. But back then he was always one step ahead. She was fighting on the back foot because he was so much better than she was.
Yeah.
Her being turned into this villain.
Sophie, your idea is cooler, but think about it. You could give Chi-Chi a technique called the Deadly Dinner.
I don't know whether or not to be insulted by this statement.
No, you just call it diner.
Diner, that's diner.
As in
diner. Oh my god. Let's move on. You guys are being absurd.
Diner. Okay, Brother Roga. Ooh, this is gonna piss off Haverok. I know it will. What if Roshi learned Ultra Instinct Sign? He already showed a similar feat in the manga's TOP, avoiding Jiren's punch and so on.
Get out of my house.
Well, guys, that wasn't Ultra Instinct. But I know what you're saying. What if he did?
Yeah.
How? You have to be in possession of God Key to even learn how to do it. That's the thing. You know, and it doesn't have to be a Saiyan. You just have to know it. But then again, we don't know all the training that, you know, Roshi did. So
the biggest thing about Roshi is that I want to say that he shouldn't be that strong because he's never presented himself as being that strong. But at the same time, I also know that Roshi's personality is such that he has never really gone to be the front man for any kind of defense of the earth, barring King Piccolo. And in that instance, it was personal for him because of the fact that his teacher had died to seal him away, you know. So for him, there was a personal aspect there with his relationship with Mutaito.
Yeah.
But you, at the same time, you have to remember, this is a man who has more or less discovered the secret of immortality without utilizing the Dragon Balls. He's a man who's been alive for 300 plus years. If some human is going to be capable of Ultra Instinct, it is probably going to be Roshi. It's just, then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, if Ultra Instinct requires God Key, how did he acquire it? When did this occur? And all we ever got, like, as far as Super goes, is in the anime at least, during the whole bit with the sorceress, I don't remember, Yurina or whatever her name was, at Tien's dojo. When Goku fights the mind-controlled Roshi, he makes a comment about, like, oh, you've been keeping secrets from us, as if we're supposed to believe that Roshi's been secretly training in order to keep up with everybody this whole time, and it's like, come on.
That's the kind of thing that he would care about. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just really forced. It was Toyotaro going, I don't know, that, pretty much. Kenshin 491. What if the Z Fighters met and fought their abridged counterparts in the TOP? It'd be, well, Vegeta would tap out because it's like, I'm not gonna fight any gag manga characters! And stuff like that. Vegeta would tap out immediately because, you know, yeah, he's like, you know, forget this. A Goku, the two Gokus would probably get along, so they probably would end up, like, not fighting each other.
Piccolos would get along.
Or they would fight each other because they know that they'd give themselves the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Who can deck the one in the schnoz first? Pretty much. Pretty much that. Paparacha's next. Welcome, Paparacha. What if King Cold turned good after retiring? So basically, King Cold, he retires from being the head of the Cold Force. He takes up cross-stitching, you know, likes to put his feet up by the fire, or his claws. And
I mean, he still takes planets, he builds nature reservates.
he's got a house that's like on top of a mountainside, and like one day as he's looking at the sunrise, he realizes the beauty of nature and all of the life around him, and he's like, oh no, what have I done?
Oh gosh, guys, I know he makes a bonsai planet in jars.
Oh my god.
Exactly. Then Paparazzo comes up with another one. What if Vegeta learned Roshi used the Fountain of Youth? So, what are you telling me? Is this planet has a pool of liquid immortality? Vegeta doesn't seem to be really that bothered about retaining his youth, because Saiyans, they don't really age until they're in their 80s. So really, Vegeta's at most in his late 40s. He's got like several decades left, and to be honest, he probably didn't plan to live this long.
Well, and you have to remember that, like, because a lot of people think, like, oh, Vegeta's probably really concerned about death because he wanted immortality back during, like, the Saiyan Saga and the Namek Saga. But it's like, the only reason he pursued immortality at those times was because it was the only way he could perceive of defeating Frieza. Because Frieza's power was so much greater than anyone else's that you would have to be invincible and immortal, essentially, in order to wear him down enough to defeat him.
That's the thing. Basically, and whenever they were going for immortality, they're not necessarily going for eternal life. They're going for basically, I will not get hurt.
Yeah.
That's what they're going for. It's more about being impervious rather than immortal.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's way more about having like an impervious body, and he's far less concerned about that later on. In fact, I'd say he's probably more concerned about the idea that he might outlive his wife, because we all know how much he loves Bulma, and he was probably secretly thankful when he figured out, thanks to Dragon Ball Super Broly, that she's been going and wishing herself younger on the sly.
So there you go. That explains that age-old question, or something like that. But yeah, so Paparazzi's next again. Oh, I've got a lot of Paparazzi's, little quickie ones. What if Garlic was the Grand Priest's fallen brother? Garlic Jr. reboot? So basically, Garlic Jr. or Garlic Senior is a fallen angel. I mean, not a bad idea.
Yes, but like he would have to be really powerful, and
it would have to explain why he was much weaker than an angel.
Yeah. Maybe he was stripped out of all the angel powers,
Yeah, in the circumstances.
Yeah, well, it could be a situation similar to something like in other lore or other series and stuff like that. When an angel falls, they lose like a great deal of their abilities, if not all of them outright. So like you could say that maybe he was brought down to badass. Like he used to be godly, now he's been brought down to just badass. And like we know that the original Super Namekian, the nameless Namekian that Kami and Piccolo used to be, was a powerful individual in his own right before he split. So it could be that he defeated Garlic Senior thanks to that power, and then split King Piccolo off from him to purify his heart.
Yes, true. All right. Paparazzi's got another one. What if Vegeta's pod was destroyed on Earth? Okay, so basically if it meant that Vegeta was stranded. Well, really, it would have meant that Vegeta would have had to have fended for himself, because there's no way they would allow Goku to give him a senzu bean at that time. Nor would and because if Vegeta did that, he would have destroyed them, because he would have done that. And if everybody just kind of left him there, he'd have just been left to rot, pretty much. I'm pretty good at play sound. Element Zero just literally said in the chat, "Play the music, Masako." So like, Element's go, "Hey Masako, play the music." Well, yeah, sure thing, Element. I love it. Pretty much. It's not good for Vegeta. Moving on. What if Z ended with Cell and Super started with Boo? GT. Basically, if Z had ended at Cell, that probably would have made Z one of the best anime series ever. Like, if Z ended like how the original run of Kai ended, that would have been like, everyone would have gone, wow, that was a really good story about the rites of passage of Gohan. That would have been brilliant. And then,
can you imagine how like the fanfic and the fan comics and stuff would have tried to continue the story, not knowing about Boo, not knowing about anything else that was to come, if it just ended at Gohan being passed the torch.
For at least 5 or 10 years, there was no knowledge about what was going to happen next. That the speculation would have been rife. It would have been crazy. But if it had ended like that, well, in short, I would say it'd probably be better paced. Like, with Super, 5 years after nothing, and you get, like, a 60-episode arc, you go, like, people would be much more excited and more receptive to Boo, I think. People would be more welcoming to it. So, something like that. Ice King 688. I have 2 what-ifs for you tonight. What if Bulma got her wish on the DragonBallZ in the Pilaf saga for the perfect boyfriend? And what if Goku accepted Kami's offer to become Guardian of Earth at the end of the Piccolo Jr. saga? Well, we'll cover that second one first, because that is a lot easier. And we have...
This will be in FAQ part 2. This has to be in FAQ part 2.
If we do another FAQ video, it will be in this. But in short, Ice King, Goku would be in the job for very little time, because he's being kept down. He's being kept in one place, and Goku does not like being tied down to something. He does not like commitment, and this is something... Yeah. And also, he would not enjoy it. This is not the kind of job that
he'd be so bored. Yeah. He would be so bored.
And tempted to, you know, to help somebody, but he couldn't intervene.
Yeah, he wouldn't be able to, because the point of the Guardian, you're not meant to go down. And if you do, it's only for a short amount of time, and not as yourself, as Kami demonstrated. So that's pretty much it. If he did, if accept it, he would not be that for long. Your second one, what if Bulma got her wish on the DragonBallZ and the Pilaf saga for the perfect boyfriend? Well, at that time, it was Yamcha. At the time. I know people want to be like, oh, Vegeta just shows up. But at the same time, the Bulma... Mid-20s Bulma and teen Bulma are 2 very different creatures. And the Bulma at... The 16-year-old Bulma, pretty much... Yamcha was the perfect boyfriend, pretty much.
Shenron will be like, that would be a wasted wish. No, because he's already standing beside.
No, you say it in a very sweet thing. It's like, you say, I do not need to give this wish. Why is that? He is right here before you. Aww. Oh, no, Yamcha goes, I'm already here. It's like,
oh my
romantic.
Gosh.
And then Twice goes, you're so romantic, Yamcha.
Cheesy or not, I do kind of find myself agreeing. The idea that, Bulma wishes for the perfect boyfriend and gets Vegeta is really... it's silly to me, because Vegeta really isn't the perfect boyfriend, especially at that time, because Vegeta had to undergo a ton of character development before he even met Bulma properly. Yeah. Like he had seen her a couple of times on Namek, but didn't interact with her in any extended capacity. And it wasn't until he had a bunch of character development from fighting alongside Krillin and Gohan and Goku, and dying at the hands of Frieza, begging Goku, avenge our race, that when he meets Bulma again, and then over the course of that development, he becomes a good match for her.
Yeah.
But if she were to wish in Dragon Ball for the perfect boyfriend, it wouldn't be Vegeta, because at that point in time, he's egotistical, bratty, too powerful for his own good, and he's obsessed essentially with the thought of one day reclaiming what he feels is like his birthright and defeating Frieza, and finding some way to be on top as the Prince of All Saiyans, future King of All Saiyans should be.
Yeah, but we've got to move on. Master Riku comes up with a curious one. What if the Oracle Fish predicted Gine was the Super Saiyan God? Well, I think I could field this one. I got an idea. Basically, Whis says, well, you destroyed that planet, Lord Beerus. So, oh yes, I guess I suppose that did happen. Whis, can you go and get this Saiyan lady from the other world? They basically... Whis would go to the other world, go to King Yemma, saying, hey, there was a Saiyan that was destroyed about 40 years ago. Can you bring her back, please? Thank you. Boop her back into existence. Beerus would say, are you the Super Saiyan God? She wouldn't know a thing. Try to fight her, and she would die again, pretty much. Unless, you know... But she would have no idea about Kakarot still being alive. So she would have no information to give him. So it would be a very pointless exercise.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's the long of the short. Basically, I would play the music, but that's just sad. That's just really... I feel bad for Gine in that regard. Yeah. Chancellor Lord. What if Bardock took Nappa's place? There would have been a lot more back chat with Vegeta, that's for sure. And if Bardock was the one and then ended up fighting Kakarot, he probably would not listen to Vegeta, and he would probably try and rebel against him.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It also depends on if you're going based off of Bardock from the special, father of Goku. I know that most people, when they're referring to Bardock, they're talking about Bardock from the special, but prior to the special's release, and as far as we know from the canon in and of itself, Bardock isn't some kind of special forces mid-class Saiyan or whatever. Bardock had a power level of less than 700. If Raditz's statement regarding Gohan's initial power fluctuation that he senses the first time on the planet is anything to go by, because he remarks casually that a power level of 710 would be stronger than his dad, which basically implies that Bardock was weak, even by comparison to Raditz. So if you're going just off of what we know from the manga, then Bardock as a character would be even less useful to Vegeta than the Cybermen are.
But then you say
if you're going off,
you say that, though, but at the same time, Bardock is far less cautious than Raditz. So after many Zenkai, he probably would be much more willing. He would get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
He probably would be able to elevate himself up to around about the same power as Nappa.
Yeah,
I agree.
I could see that. Ultimately, I think what would have wound up happening is, if you wanted to go with that basis, right? I think what would have wound up happening is Goku would face off against him, and then Bardock would basically just leverage it into being like, no, Vegeta, I don't have to listen to you anymore. I'm just gonna stay here with my son, essentially. and
also for the fact that he prophesized that this Kakarot was the one that would defeat Frieza. So basically,
if you're going based off the special,
convince Vegeta, don't kill him.
Yeah,
he could be of use to us in our fight against Frieza, and that might make Vegeta stop, and he might kill Bardock out of anger, just like out of frustration, or like injure Bardock considerably.
Yep.
But yeah, we're getting bogged down. It's a cool idea. Let's make a note of it.
It is an interesting idea. I know. We tend to ramble when they're good.
Yeah, no, exactly.
One of the most interesting Bardock ideas we've got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, the finale of What If Bardock Convinced the Saiyans is coming out on Saturday, and there will be a special shirt to commemorate it, and it's a really cool design, so you'll look forward to that.
And the Saiyans will be convinced like they were never before.
The tale of Bardock the Believable will be told very magnificently. But MasakoX also comes in saying, what if Caulifla wished herself into Universe 7? Well, nowadays,
okay, so
really need to.
You have to ask yourself why.
Why?
So
okay,
I can think, okay, well, if she wished herself to Universe 7, let's assume that she did it with like Universe 6's Namekian DragonBallZ or something, right? She wouldn't have the ability to collect the super ones. The only reason I could see her going to Universe 7 would be because she wants to fight/train with Goku some more.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So is she gonna bring Kale with her or Kaba? If not, then mostly I think it would just be hijinks, because you'd have this girl who is 100%, because she is really kind of the epitome of that sort of Sukeban archetype. She's completely brash, she's rude, she's this gang leader personality, and she's single-minded about the fighting and power aspect of it. She would want to monopolize all of Goku's time training, and Goku, who's eager to train at any given opportunity, he would be excited for this. I think what would end up happening is just hijinks between Caulifla and Chi-Chi, because Chi-Chi would be seeing this younger, stronger woman coming in and basically stepping into her territory. Even if Caulifla has no interest in Goku in that way, Chi-Chi would be angry about it.
Chi-Chi would be angry about a lot of things, unfortunately.
Maybe even get her to consider, hey, maybe I should get back to training.
Yeah, probably it would make Chi-Chi step up in a way. But Paparazzi is about to step up as well. What if Cooler went to Namek after Earthlings, but before Ginyu? So basically, when the Earthlings arrived, but before the Ginyu showed up. Well, I think, again, I'll keep this short. He would basically try and, like, muck up everything that Frieza was doing and undermine him considerably. Basically saying, are you seriously going through village after village? This is clearly not your style, brother. He would just basically just, like, say, why aren't you getting every single one of your mooks to go to these villages at the same time? And there'd be bickering, they'd end up fighting each other, and Namek would just be caught up in the crossfire, I think.
And I think Cooler could get the balls before Frieza and ask the dragon to not ever grant any Frieza's wishes. That would be his wish.
Yeah, basically, says, you see that guy over there? Basically don't serve him.
Yeah.
It's basically like a ban list at a bar or something like that, pretty much. Just to undermine and annoy his brother. That's pretty much all he would do. Yeah. Master Riku again says, a twist to my previous question. What if Vegeta asked for a Super Dragon Ball wish to bring the 3 Universe 6 Saiyans for the Tournament of Power to Universe 7? But the trouble is, though, the dragon would be going like, really? Like, and then, and Whis, who would be probably doing the angel, saying, really, Vegeta?
Really?
Why would you want to do that? You could just ask them to come. I have a phone. Don't you guys have phones?
Oh my gosh.
Well, Tien doesn't.
Tien doesn't. No, Ten Shinhan doesn't, apparently. But no, basically, I think Whis would just go like, say, no, I'm not doing that. Just call them. I have a phone. Just call them and tell them to come over. In fact, why don't you go over there? Or something like that, pretty much. Yeah. I think it would probably be rejected for a waste. And Beerus would probably chew him out as well. Say, really? You're going to waste a wish on Super Shenron for that? He'd be basically laughed out of the building. So unfortunately, that's pretty much what the way would be. Jared Gospel, what if Krillin had a transformation like a Hulk form that is triggered by high levels of rage? So basically, just being superhuman. It's basically. Krill Smash!
It's Kriller time.
It's literally Kriller time. He would be the Kriller. They call me the Kriller!
The incredible Kriller!
The incredible Krunk.
That's my secret, Goku! I'm always bold!
It's like...
Oh my god.
Anime Guy 01. What if Goku and Raditz were born as twins when Goku was initially born and sent to Earth together? Well, if they were born at the same time, well, Raditz was more powerful at birth than Goku was. So, I think at that time, and as they grow up, Raditz would probably protect Goku, or be the one to defend him. Basically, consider Goku a weakling, and probably be the one, like, the more defensive one. Or the more, like, aggressive in that regard.
Although he might be less bratty and they would have a bond.
Oh no, their bond would be strong, because even when Raditz was going to end up, killing Goku, he was giving him plenty of chances to turn. Yeah, are you sure, brother? Like, he was giving him, like, he's just basically like Reynolds in IT Crowd going, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Basically, giving Goku every single chance to not be hurt by him.
Raditz did the equivalent of saying, "I'm gonna count to 3," and then going 1, 2, 2.5, 2 3/4,
2 5/8. It's pretty much doing that, giving Goku every single opportunity, pretty much.
Yeah.
Order Johnny, what if Goku was book smart? Now, I'm glad you specified book smart, because one of my bugbears is Goku being called dumb. He's not dumb. I did a video about this, about asking, is Goku smart? And there is
he's
a theory,
book dumb.
Well, there is a theory that there are 7 different definitions of intelligence, and Goku is probably a massive genius in 3 of them. Like, natural intelligence, kinetic intelligence, and I think perception intelligence. It's just that the only means of intelligence that we actually define people is mathematical intelligence. Basically,
and social intelligence.
Social intelligence. Exactly. Those 2, he's not so hot at.
Those 2, he's not hot at those in general. And I think when people ask about what if Goku was smart, I think they're referring to the social and book smart aspect of it, the technical intelligence of it.
Well, if he was, he would have a better understanding, wouldn't he?
Well, and I think that if he was, he would have found a lot more commonality, I think, with Bulma. Yes. I think that he would have probably been it's always been my belief that if Goku had higher social intelligence, and so if he had better social skills, more knowledge in general about society, the relationship between people, between genders, etc., and if he knew a little bit more on the education side, so that he could better appreciate Bulma's genius, I think that he would have probably been the sort of character to have developed a precocious crush on her. And whether or not that turned into anything later on, who knows? But I think that he would have had a closer relationship there.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much, I think I would stand to reason. The Jurassic Show. What if Paragus didn't kill Beats? I have to admit, when I saw that movie, I think everyone in the audience was going like, oh, come on, why? As in, like...
It was just save food.
People were like, people did not take kindly to that. And I'm pretty sure you out there was like, Beats didn't have to die.
Everyone disliked that.
Yeah, but when you think about it and you realize... Yeah, but when you realize that Broly is wearing his clothes, so you can think that... yeah, that's very morbid if you think about it. I mean, I'm pretty sure what they did to him, but I'm sure that's one of the things we cannot talk about. Because, terms of service.
Not here, no.
One of 2 things we cannot talk about. So.
Yeah, unfortunately. No. Catman. What if Master Shen had the 3-star ball in Dragon Ball, leading Goku to meet the Crane Hermit and train with the Crane Hermit instead of Master Roshi? Well, if he had the 3-star ball, I don't think Goku would be receptive, because he's a good boy. He's a really good boy. He's of good heart. And he would probably go like, you don't seem like a really nice person. And probably he would, Shen would probably have to get very physical to try and, imprison Goku. Because he does not want Roshi to have this strong kid. So he would we'd probably be introduced to Ten Shinhan much sooner. And Ten Shinhan would probably be, his guard, almost, kind of like, I have to keep an eye on you, and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
And it would end up with them stopping trainings and running away with the Dragon Ball. Sorry, Sophie.
Yeah, I think Ten Shinhan would. And Ten Shinhan would eventually, as you say, they would probably end up skipping town, something like that. So with the Dragon Ball or something like that. But yeah, Master Riku. What if Gohan achieved the unknown form he said he was shooting for in Dragon Ball Super? Well, again, it's unknown. We don't know the quantities of it. We don't know whether it's a form which is powerful in the traditional sense. Is it a different type of power that is not really quantifiable in comparison to regular Super Saiyan? We don't know. But to be honest, when I first heard that in episode 90, I was like, yeah, sure, Gohan, sure, okay, yeah, right, yeah. I was like, okay, no, that was giving us false hope, really. But if he did I think there's just a lot of unknowns at this point in the story, because we don't really have a clue about where it's going. We might do in the manga, because the bang is not down. The bang is not down currently. So I would say let's watch this space, and then if we do see a new power from Gohan, then we could probably answer that question of yours better, Riku. Tyrant X.
Mm-hmm.
What if Beerus never fell asleep? He'd be doing his job. Or he probably would be crankier than ever. But basically, he probably would just do more of what he was already doing, pretty much.
Maybe Universe 7 would actually have a decent mortal level.
Right.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, whatever
that means, since they never explain.
No, they never did. And that was just like, okay, right, whatever. Mr. Gamerman 94. My idea is, what if Gohan turned Super Saiyan 3 when he got super mad itself for killing Android 13 or 16? Will Gohan get stronger by the Margin Saga? Unfortunately, Mr. Gamerman, that's not physically possible on Earth. Goku's explained many times the only reason he was able to tap into Super Saiyan 3 was due to the fact there were no limits in the other world, basically. There was no limit.
Well, and he was also working from a much, much higher power level due to all of his training on King Kai's planet.
And
that's kind of
Super Saiyan 2.
Yeah, and it's kind of implied to be the whole reason why Gotenks was able to achieve Super Saiyan 3 was just because of the fact that, like, the sheer amount of power increase from their fusion is such that they can overshoot all of that and go into Super Saiyan 3. But as we see, it's very childish to think that way because it's not actually all that effective of a transformation.
No,
Gotenks would probably be better off utilizing Super Saiyan 2, but he doesn't.
Yeah, just following the Vegeta school of thought, really. Just master Super Saiyan 2. Yeah, so pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
That, really. Drunk Rat Senpai. What if Goku was Vegeta's brother instead of Raditz? Oh my god. The sibling rivalry in that one? Oh, basically, if Vegeta found out his brother had a power level of 2, he'd probably be even more dismissive than he was with Tarbell. Like...
Yeah.
Oh, no, basically, if King Vegeta found out his son had a power level of 2, he'd have just casted that boy's butt out of there.
Well, here's the thing. I think that King Vegeta would see it almost as a sense of, well, maybe his power hasn't fully awakened. Because King Vegeta, we already know as a person, like, we've seen how delusional he can be and how egotistical he can be.
Yep.
So I think that if his second-born, if we're going to say that, let's say Goku replaces Tarbell, right? Goku is born and has a power level of 2 while he's in the pod. He's going to see that and be like, oh, he's going to be a late bloomer. We'll have to make sure to beat the power out of him when he comes out. And so he'd make excuses for him. And if he wound up on Earth and we still have the same story, the difference is that Vegeta is his relation instead of Raditz.
Yeah.
By the time Vegeta shows up and sees how strong Goku has gotten, I think that there would be mixed feelings there, because I think that he would be like, I was always told that this guy was weak, and as the heir, as the prince of all Saiyans, I should be stronger. But then he's getting his butt handed to him by Goku throughout their fight in the Saiyan saga, and he's like, no, this isn't going to fly. He'd have almost the same reaction he did to being beaten up by a low-class Saiyan, only this time it would be like, you're the younger son. You don't get to be stronger than me.
Yeah.
I am the heir. I am the prince of all Saiyans. You want my position? He'd see it as Goku trying to usurp him, which makes it even worse in a way.
Yeah, true. Alright, speaking of which, potential. Nick Wolf says, what if only mixed Saiyans couldn't go past Super Saiyan Grade 4 naturally? Could Goku and Vegeta break this by either training in other world, marching, possession, or cheating? What if only mixed Saiyans couldn't go past Super Saiyan Grade 4? Well, but I think they mean could go past. Like, basically, mixed Saiyans could only go past into Super Saiyan 2. Goku and Vegeta have to break their training in other world. Yeah, pretty much. They would pretty much have to do that. As in, like, Goku probably would have gotten into Super Saiyan 3 anyway, because he gained Super Saiyans 2 and 3 in the other world. Vegeta probably would be the one that would suffer the most, because he'd be in the physical world. He wouldn't be able to get past Super Saiyan Grade 4. So all he would be able to do is try and just maximize the heck out of it. But also, it means that if Vegeta became Majin Vegeta, he probably would be powerful, but probably not much more powerful than a regular Super Saiyan 2. So Goku would probably still win. Goku would win against Vegeta, Majin Vegeta, pretty much. And then that probably would have stopped Buu from being, unsealed at that time. It would have happened, but probably they would have been able to buy some more time, pretty much.
And even if Buu did get out, if Goku had that extra time, there might have been more opportunities to stop Buu before he ever becomes Super Buu or anything like that. So
go in the time chamber, pretty much. Yeah, even if it's just like, you could get around that loophole and stuff like that. Compass Rose. What if Zamasu was good all along? Well, and what if Goku Black was a fusion of Zamasu akin to Kami and Demon King Piccolo? Okay. So basically, like Goku Black was like a combination of the good and evil side. But the good all along, you just need to watch our What If Zamasu Did Nothing Wrong series. That if you basically took out the venomous desire to destroy all mortals, you would get that, pretty much, I think.
Part 2 coming out soon.
Part 2 coming out.
The story of the Bible, as told through the lens of Dragon Ball Z.
A week on Saturday. Goku Black being a fusion of Zamasu, I mean, that's not a bad idea. And you kind of see flickers of that in... You can see, like, Goku Black's mind is tainted by Goku's instincts, innate...
it's such a shame that they didn't took it further away.
Up, like, to the point where, like, Vegeta, because sometimes you see, like, Goku Black going, I somehow have this desire to fight. I have this pride I can't explain. Like, that's the thing. He does sometimes talk about it, if only they expanded it more. It's a shame, really. But Strider Blaze, 80. What if Cell won the Cell games? Press the button. That's the music. It's
sound the music.
It's music. And Dustin Rogers, yeah, don't worry, I've seen that and I've upped the mic level, so thank you for that. But I think that's pretty much it. If Cell won the Cell games, Beerus and Whis would have stopped him. Boom. Pretty much. It's unfortunately now we know the existence of Beerus and Whis, and now Shin. Yeah, it would not ended well. And then it would have been taped out, and then, yeah, it wouldn't have been good for Universe 7 at all. JRC. What if the Namekian Dragon Balls couldn't bring back someone who was already wished back by any set of Dragon Balls? Ooh. Well, that would render the entire trip to Namek pointless. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Basically,
well, you would still get Guru passing on, but then being brought back with Earth's Dragon Balls.
Yeah.
But the problem is that everyone who couldn't be wished back by those Earth Dragon Balls would have stayed dead, which would have meant Krillin would have stayed dead,
Chaozu.
and would have meant Chaozu would have stayed dead, and would have meant, let's see, who else? Well, it would have meant that they couldn't have used the new Namekian Dragon Balls later on in the series. There's not a whole lot of deaths that resort to them utilizing the new Namekian Dragon Balls, as you'd think, apart from Krillin and Chaozu.
Yeah, but it makes things a little bit more fiddly, pretty much.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit more fiddly. Especially once it goes later on, because once you start getting into the Android saga, and once you start getting into the Cell and Buu saga especially, like, Buu kills way too many people during that saga for there to be, like, no recourse of bringing them back to life. So there would be probably the sound effect in the long run.
I think I sort of did play it.
Yeah.
And... Okay. Basically, Andrew Binford. What if Raditz went to Earth, found his brother earlier? If he did, he probably would have been much more compelling. Basically, if he found Goku before they had Gohan, there'd have been no leverage, but Raditz probably would have been much stronger. Goku probably would have had to have gone with him, just to save the Earth, to make sure, because Piccolo wouldn't have been willing to help him that soon after the sufferance and the kind of almost the shame of losing to Goku and being let go. So realistically, I think Raditz would take Goku. Goku would offer himself up just to save the Earth from being destroyed, because this is the first time they've actually seen aliens, so it's a big deal. So I think realistically, he would probably have to go, and just to save his friends. But yeah, long and short of it, really. Steve Cox, what if Goku bottom text? Is that a meme reference?
I believe it's a meme.
We are old, sorry.
I know, it's just, I know, I'm very much aware with the memes, but I'm like,
we don't really have an answer for what if Goku bottom text.
bottom text the macro meme. Right. It's basically, what if Goku was something like that? And something like that. So basically, what if Goku was a macro meme? It'd probably just be that one of him smiling and basically being a bad parent. Something like that, because that's a joke. That's a joke people make.
I see.
So yeah, Grateful Buster. What if they fought as Gogeta instead of Vegito? Doesn't really make much of a difference, really, because nowadays Gogeta and Vegito are interchangeable. Their personalities.
Nowadays, yeah, but in Buu Saga, I think they
in the
first
Buu
time.
Saga, basically, okay, Gogeta would have just gotten the business done, pretty much. He'd have destroyed.
But he wouldn't be as strong as Vegito, so the fight, I think, would be more even.
It'd be close. It'd be close, but I think Gogeta would have the win. But it'd be close.
Yeah, I think it would probably turn out the same ultimately in the long run. Like Gogeta, if you're going based on the idea that Gogeta is weaker than Vegito, I still think that the power amplification would be such that Buu would still be at a little bit of a disadvantage, just because of course he isn't totally used to the power he's absorbed, and just the fact that he wasn't prepared to have to face an enemy who could go toe to toe with Gohan's power, So and ultimately the plan, I think, would still be the same. I think Gogeta would try to get absorbed for the purpose of freeing everybody. So the only difference would be that when they split, they would just think, "Oh, it must have been the time limit," rather than wondering why.
Yeah. No, I think that seems to be about right. JRC, here's a stupid one. What if Babidi found Broly on Vampa during his travels to find warriors to awaken Majin Buu? Well, we talked about this last week, actually. I remember that. But basically, at that time, Broly's power level was only, in the couple of 100,000. So basically, at that time, it was at least over 100,000. So his overall power was not it wasn't necessarily that believable. It'd be interesting, but Babidi wouldn't be aware of the potential unless he was able to read Broly's mind. So he would have to have been tempted by that initial foray. But if he did find Broly and found out about his mind and realized how much of a chaos it is, he probably would have ended up either going, "Nope, I'm not getting involved in that train wreck," basically risking that this might be too much to handle, or he would immediately go in and just, mind control him instantly.
Mind control would work because Broly was pretty passive, and he was used on taking commands.
And also without having a chance to resist. Basically,
that would be devastating if he took Broly, at this point.
It would be absolutely devastating, pretty much. Clinton Seedham, what if the Dell became an instructor at Mr. Satan's dojo and started teaching people how to control ki? I think she'd be a good teacher. She'd be very forceful and very, very tough. I think it'd be very cool if for Goku and Videl, they'd be the good cop, bad cop. Good sensei, bad sensei. As in, like, Gohan would be like, come on, guys, you can do it. I believe in you. Basically, James, our Gohan, say, all right, guys, come on. Gosh, you're doing absolutely fantastic. And Videl's like, come on, you weaklings, get your butt in a gear.
Videl would be like, I'm not letting you leave the dojo until you land a punch on me.
And then Gohan says, it's okay, don't worry, guys, we can do it again tomorrow. And it's like...
And then Videl's like, you're going to need to give me 500 push-ups, sit-ups, and squats before I even let you go to the water fountain.
And don't forget to drink plenty of juice, honey.
Yeah, and get that juice.
Pretty much. It would be like that. That would be a really good thing. Yeah. So basically... Alright, okay.
We always have so many to get through.
Yeah, basically, if you think that OCR, we have got a lot to get through. So basically, we have got like dozens. So WR, I do see your what if in here. So basically, it's going to take a long time. So do be patient.
We're going to get to it eventually. Just try to be patient.
So basically, if your what if hasn't been read, it's most likely very rarely been
further down the
YouTube.
list.
It's either been eaten by YouTube or it's down the list. So that's why. So just be patient. We literally have dozens. So basically, Nick says, Sophie, this one's for you. How are you getting around the no mass revivals after 1 year as past limitation for your upcoming Saiyan revival what if? Also, congrats.
Well, mostly I'm focusing on the idea. I'm focusing on the idea that prior to that clarification, we didn't know that at the time of Frieza and King Cold's death. We knew that people tended to need to be preserved if like back in OG Dragon Ball, but then they changed that. The rules changed so frequently that I basically said that for the purpose of the what if, I'm going to treat it as if they can be revived as they were, regardless of the fact that there was a limitation on the Dragon Balls introduced later, purely for the sake of the what if. But that's the only limitation on the Dragon Balls that I'm kind of lifting, is because you really can't have the what if without it. Because if you're going to limit the Dragon Balls to saying like, well, you can't do a mass resurrection if it's been more than 1 year and the Saiyans have been dead for like 20 something years, there's really no plot there. But you got to be able to at least get the what if off the ground. So I'm basing it off of the fact that at the time of the release of the chapters where Trunks comes and fights Frieza and Cold and kills them, we didn't know that you couldn't mass resurrect after a year. So I'm just going to be working off of that. They can bring back the planet with one wish, and they can bring back the people with another, but not at the same time. That's going to be another plot point.
All right, that seems a fair workaround. Manifesto. Hey, Masako, I hope you guys are having a lovely week and day. Well, we are. Thank you very much, pal. What if Goku trained Super Broly instead of Oob, called Goku-sama? Can you picture that? The feels. It's also your birthday this weekend. Oh, cool, Manifesto. Hope you have a really fantastic birthday this weekend. But basically, in short, I think that's pretty much what's going to be happening. Like, he's going to be there. Broly is going to be trained by Goku, but not for wholly selfless reasons. Goku wants to get stronger, and Broly is the perfect candidate. So he'll be doing that, and yeah. So I would say that Broly is being kept here around just to train, for that sake. And then it's basically, I could totally picture that. It's basically, Broly's there until Oob arrives. I mean, basically, Broly and Goku train. That is until Oob shows up. It's pretty much that, really. Catman again. What if? Okay. This is basically saying the same question as before. What if Master Shen, the Crane Hermit, had the 3-star in Dragon Ball, leading to a Goku Master Shen meetup, and he ends up training with Shen? We did cover that earlier. So, Catman, I hope you're. Thank you much again for the super chat, but we hope your question was satisfactorily met. 28 days 3559. Can you do a what if the future androids turned good and didn't kill Gohan? Oh, at that point they were beyond redeemable. Like, seriously, they've been at this for like 2 decades. The only way I could say that it might happen is if 17's desire to be a park ranger overrode the desire to kill, pretty much. Would you say?
Yeah, probably.
That's pretty much the only way.
Because that's the big thing about the androids, is that 17 and 18 are such that they do whatever they think is fun in the moment. And the problem with the androids in the future compared to the androids of the present timeline is they never got to interact with 16. You really kind of see this sort of connection there where it's because of their interactions with 16, who is very, very basic because he doesn't have his full programming. As he begins to learn to like appreciate nature and life and stuff like that, I think that kind of rubs off on 17 to an extent, like to the point to where 17 and 18 are kind of like, let's kill Goku and let's just go live and then after that we'll go and live our lives. But the 17 and 18 in the future, the bad future, they were always just the petty teenagers, and they just did whatever the heck they wanted for fun to the extreme.
Pretty much. Because the 90s were extreme. And with 16, you're right. I am a basic bot.
Yeah, and I don't think 17 has that same appreciation for life without 16 being in the picture.
I drink from Starbots. I am basic.
Oh my god. If only I was physically there so I could slap you for that.
Alex Mellinger, or Mellinger. What if Frieza never destroyed Planet Vegeta? Well, I pretty much think if he didn't destroy Planet Vegeta, he would basically threaten the perspective, the possibility of doing it. So basically, like, he'd go like, I might do it one day if you don't do what I say, and stuff like that. So basically, if he never did, then he'd be counting on the fact that the Saiyans would be so scared, they'd be scared straight to not rise against them. But basically, he probably would have still killed Bardock as an example. Pretty much. He would have just like say, let that be a lesson to you monkeys. If you put yourself out of line, I will put you in your place. Bardock would be nothing but made to be like an example, pretty much. And
a public flaying.
Yes, exactly. Pretty much just that, really. And then Frieza's rule over the Saiyans would be stronger than ever, pretty much, just out of fear.
Yeah.
And it would eat them up inside, totally, and that would help him even more. Anim 1013. What if Piccolo decided to have a kid? Well, first off, if Piccolo decided to have a kid, it'd probably be way into the future, because in the Namekian years, he's still quite young. He's only in like his early 20s. So,
yeah, I mean, he's only like, shoot, man, I think he was 2 or 3 when he fought Goku in the Tenkaichi Budokai. Like he was 3 years old, which means that after the time skip to Z, he's 8, which means he's only like 4 years older than Gohan. So he's barely an adult even by the time Gohan is in high school. And I think that Piccolo has a rough relationship with his past because of where he comes from, as far as King Piccolo and stuff goes. And I think that children are something that he would not, he would be very cautious to approach that because of the fact that King Piccolo used his children, his mutant demon children to attempt to enslave the earth, you know. And then when he birthed Piccolo was supposed to just be like his reincarnation, you know, his attempt to take his vengeance sometime later on against Goku and Kami. So he has a lot of personal hangups there that I think he would really need to probably even talk to somebody and get over before he would think to have a kid.
Yeah, pretty much. There'd be a lot to unpack there. Right Guy 92250. What if Champa actually erased the Universe 6 fighters at the end of the tournament? How would it affect the tournament power arc? Well, it would be a very boneheaded move. Champa would be basically, I think we've talked about this before actually, with Haverok saying he'd be begging Beerus for help. And also, Vegeta would pretty much kick his ass out of anger. Just for like, you know, Kaba. He just made a connection with Kaba. Kaba's erased. Vegeta, he might actually go Blue 2. Or Blue Evo or something like that. Or he would basically be like a really buff Blue. And just like try and like, yeah, he'd be so mad. And I think Goku would be as well. And the only one who couldn't be is probably Hit. And the only Hit be the only one that could escape, I think.
You know what I think would probably happen? What? I think that if Champa became worried because like, oh, he killed the Universe 6 fighters in disgust after the tournament was done. But let's just say like, oh, he did it after the Earth, after Beerus wished for him to have his own revitalized Earth or whatever. But he was still so petty that he got rid of the fighters. I think what would wind up happening is when Champa comes to Beerus and is like, oh crap, I made a mistake, I killed my fighters, and we're gonna have the Tournament of Power soon. I think what would happen is Goku would be like, well, why don't you just get yourself a Dende and wish them back with the Dragon Balls? So, because it's like, you guys got a Namek, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Goku, it's kind of like a DBZ abridged system almost. Yeah. It's like, oh, we need one of those Guardian things? Okay, let me go grab one for you.
Well, it would be harder. He would need Super Dragon Balls if he Hakai'd them, basically, but...
Yeah.
That's if he Hakai's them.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Champa probably wouldn't need to Hakai them in order to defeat them.
It would be a logistical headache, that's for sure.
I mean, with Hit, you don't know. You don't know with Hit.
Hit probably be the only one who could escape, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, time skip out of there just in time. Red Dragon Force 2. What if when GT Gogeta was created, he was Super Saiyan God? The concept as told by Shenron of 5 Saiyans joining their energy with a 6th explains the red hair. Well, the red hair was mainly just like a fur variation, because Saiyan fur is red or pink. Depends. That's the red of Vegeta's fur. But if the power was that of a Super Saiyan God, by basically combining somehow the energies of all the Saiyan hybrids around, maybe... Question mark? I mean, it would have been cool if they inadvertently just went like, oh... You know, with all this power, I just made myself the Super Saiyan God. I have no idea what this power is. They probably would have used it, and they wouldn't have been beating themselves up about it by not earning this power. They'd be like, yeah, all right, I'll take this. Pretty much.
I'll take it.
I'll take it, and because I want to reach the beast that is my mission. Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. They would roll with it. I mean, that'd be really cool if they just discovered that power and they have no idea what it is. And then that would lead to the next arc where they discover what that power is. So that would be a good way if they did another arc. Or it'd be really cool. It was one of those powers that was never explained. We were left in the dark as much, and then basically Toriyama's going like, no, I'm gonna let you try and figure it out. What is this power? You decide. So pretty much Toriyama is that masochistic sometimes. Philip Perkins, what if Frieza had a benevolent twin? Oh, if he did, Frieza would just make his life hell.
If he had a benevolent twin, I think he would have probably been too focused on his rivalry to have built a successful empire. Because let's assume that a benevolent twin has the same power as Frieza does, right?
Mm-hmm.
This would basically mean that the two of them would be fighting constantly, and
nothing would get done.
Cold probably wouldn't care because Cold is honestly a pretty chill guy.
Yeah.
But when he's not trying to take vengeance for his son. But I think what would have probably happened is that if he had a benevolent twin, what would have wound up happening is their fighting would have prevented Frieza from being basically worthy to take the throne. Obviously, Cold wouldn't give it to the twin either. So what would happen is Cooler would be the emperor, and Frieza and whoever his benevolent twin was would basically be sidelined because they'd be off doing their own fighting against each other in some corner of the universe.
Yeah, exactly. They'd be just off doing their own thing. But yeah, okay. Master Riku, what if Chi-Chi wished to become a Saiyan after learning Goku was one? I don't think she really cares about that. In fact, it would explain his unusual behavior. But if she did, why? That's the thing. You'd have to come up with a valid reason why she would want to. Yeah.
And what was the question again? My audio cut out.
If Chi-Chi decided to become a Saiyan after finding out Goku was one.
Well, it depends on at what point in the timeline. I could see her maybe considering the wish if we're talking like, later on, Buu Saga or even GT Chi-Chi, because you do see her start to be concerned about the fact that she is aging a lot more rapidly than Goku is, because Saiyans stay youthful until they hit their elder years. So if she wanted to be a Saiyan like Goku, she'd have to be presented with a scenario where she, A, needed to be more powerful right away, and or B, was faced with the possibility that she very, very likely might not live to be to stay by Goku's side for the entirety of the 80 years or whatever of life he has as a Saiyan. So, like, maybe a medical condition or something like that, where she has to wish herself to be a Saiyan in order to repair her organs because she has a condition where she's got really old organs or something. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. Again, but she'd have to have extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, pretty much. There have to be a very, very valid reason. Gerardo Flores. What if Gohan was Earth's hero? Videl... Oh, continued. Videl hated Gohan, Goku's dead, Vegeta was licking his wounds. What happened when Beerus wakes up and Whis informs him that the Earth's hero was half Saiyan? Oh, okay, so going off the back of the other what if that I did. Okay. I think if Beerus ended up, if Gohan ended up becoming the Earth's hero... Oh god, I can't even remember what happened in that one.
I can remind you, like, he was pretty stressed about this.
Oh yeah, no, he wanted to. He didn't like being seen as Earth's hero.
And Videl wasn't very fond of him as well.
So basically, Gohan ended up being quite isolated. And basically, Earth's hero was a half Saiyan. It'd probably be a very.
It's lonely at the top.
It is lonely at the. That's the way I would frame it. That Gohan wouldn't be enjoying this at all. He probably wouldn't be able to, do his studying and stuff like that without being harangued.
Think about all those conferences he would miss.
He probably would end up with, if he went to high school, he probably would end up with Irasa, pretty much. Like, Irasa probably be the only one that would actually, try and...
That could work as a scenario for what if Gohan married Irasa.
Yeah, basically, if she liked Gohan for being Gohan... Pretty much.
That should probably keep a note of that, because I've seen a couple of people ask for, like, what if Gohan married Arasa, and I couldn't think of a reason why he would marry Arasa. Okay. But if you were to combine it with that scenario, I think Arasa might be a better fit.
Yeah.
Than Videl.
Well, we'll make a note of that. But basically, what happens when Beerus wakes up? He probably would be very curious, but also would want to know, what happened to the full-blooded Saiyans and stuff like that. So,
would he have any visions though?
Well, the visions were about Goku. So basically,
but at this point, would he have those visions in this scenario?
Oh, not yet, no, because he's still asleep.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that's it. Annam 1013. What if Piccolo decided to have a kid? Oh, we've already covered that. Basically, he would have to have a very...
He'd have to work through his issues.
Yes, there's a lot to unpack with that one. Master Riku. What if the Dragon Ball series and Kung Fu Panda series, both movie and show, had a crossover? There'd be an eating contest in there somehow. In that
Oh my
episode,
gosh, Po versus Goku eating contest.
there would be an eating contest. Roshi and Master Fu probably would end up having a argument or something like that. Piccolo and what's the name of Angelina Jolie's character, the tiger?
Tigress. The Tigress.
Tigress.
Basically, they would end up getting along bizarrely because of being.
I think by the end of it as well, Goku would have stolen another technique as he learns the Wuxi finger hold.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he just
Skadoosh.
Skadoosh.
Yeah.
Revolt Lars Wolfblade. Silly what if? What if every person in the DBU was Goku? Multiple Gokus everywhere. I played the bad sound because that would have ended badly. Can you imagine every single Z fighter was Goku? The universe would be destroyed, riddled with pot marks and craters from all the training and stuff like that.
Not just from all the training, from all of the times that they let like an evil force escape for the purpose of a greater challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
And there have been times where Goku's arrogance does get him in over his head. Like, just even on Namek, if it weren't for the fact that he had his freak out and turned Super Saiyan when Krillin was killed by Frieza, like he went into the fight with Frieza way too arrogant, thinking that he could rely on Kaioken, and then, oh dear, you can't. So
yeah, oops, it would have not. That would have gone badly.
If everyone was Goku,
yeah,
it would be bad.
Yeah. Heartless Fang. What if Chaozu gained Mob Psycho level psychic powers after returning to life during the Android Saga? Ooh.
Say again?
What if Chaozu gained Mob Psycho level psychic powers after he came back to life?
Well, it would give him something unique to him. And I mean, as a character who's modeled off of the Jiangxi, the Chinese vampire archetype, that's based on like psychic powers and energies and stuff like that, and it's kind of one of those breeds of, I think, if I'm recalling correctly, of psychic vampire that would kind of work a bit for Chaozu. I think it would be interesting because it would give a bit of an opportunity to have him maybe have a couple of little independent stories of his own, maybe address like with him and Tien like having to be like, we have to teach you how to control your power for the greater good, and that you don't wind up destroying yourself or others.
I mean, to be quite honest, he is a psychic. He does a lot of psychic stuff. He's a telepathy. He can do telepathy. In DB, he could meddle with with the tournament order. So like there is a lot of missed opportunity in that character. Yeah. Also, he's kind of creepy.
Yeah, it'd be more than just shenanigans, though. Fortunately.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah. Manifesto again. 2 what ifs. What if a DBZ, Dragon Ball Super, MLP, AU, or Pokemon AU existed? Fun. And what if Masako loved Super Saiyan 3 and Super Saiyan Blue in another AU? Well, if it did, my channel would nowhere be near as popular if I liked Super Saiyan 3 as much as I don't like it in this world. That's for sure. MLP, DBZ.
As far as
I remember reading a Broly one where the Shining Armor and Twilight Sparkle were having a wedding, and then Broly came in as Twilight's long lost uncle.
Oh my gosh!
And like
I will say that
was Broly screaming.
I will say that all jokes aside, if you were going to have like a crazy cartoon crossover with Dragon Ball, My Little Pony is actually, at least the Friendship is Magic series, is actually a pretty inspired choice. because it's probably one of the few cartoons of the era that come out of America up until you had stuff like Steven Universe and stuff like that, where like they actually did do like big time epic, surprisingly epic battles. They had a beam struggle at one point between Twilight and Tirek, and it's like you could actually get a lot of mileage out of that, especially since the power of friendship is actually a very, very like battle shonen theme, with the whole Japanese concept of nakama, and so I think that actually wouldn't be too bad. You just have to try and keep it from being too bad fan fiction levels.
Yeah, it's a very big balancing act, that's for sure. Red Dragon Force 2. What if Arale fought Frieza in Resurrection F? She would win. She'd basically say, "You don't belong here." Karate chop him, break him in half. Pretty much just like that. Frieza would have no idea how to react to it. And then Vegeta would be saying, I'm staying out of this one.
Like, yeah, Frieza would be, excuse me, that's a new one.
And I've been around Goku. I have no idea what's going on here. But basically, Arale would win. Vegeta would be just like scared, but not willing to admit it. It's like, "Hey, Vegeta, why don't you go in and help her?" No, I don't want to. My tummy hurts. That sounds like an excuse that Hercule would say. "My tummy hurts, Kakarot! Do not disrespect the prince's tummy troubles." Pretty much just like that, or something like that. He'd come up with some silly excuse to not fight. Yeah.
I think I've got food poisoning. I'm afraid I won't be able to fight at full strength, Kakarot.
But you've not eaten anything today, jeez.
I said I have food poisoning!
It's like, okay, jeez, you're a wimp. Oh my god. Mag, what if Android 17 stuck around after the Cell games? If he did, he probably would just end up hanging around 18. It probably would have made things very awkward. Like, 18 and Krillin are dating, and 17 is going like, "Hey, you two should kiss."
No. Oh my gosh. Oh, here's how it would work, okay? We'd wind up with a spin-off series that's all about Krillin and 18 like trying to date, but 17 not having any of it, and each episode is a new plot that he has to try and break them up because he doesn't like it.
Also trying to get a boat as well.
Yeah, also while trying to get a boat.
Yeah.
In the end, Krillin and 18 become best buddies, and they swim out on a boat towards the sunset.
Oh. Nightblade 370. What if Launch was a Saiyan? Between her blonde form and shift in attitude, what if she was a Saiyan from the very beginning who forgot like Goku? Well, it'd be a very interesting thing if that was Super Saiyan. If that turned out to be Super Saiyan and they had no idea what it was, that would be very interesting, because the power would be going up, but since Launch is a regular human, or regular power, the power wouldn't be that big of a leap. But
yeah, like if her power level is around between like 2 and 10, then a 50 times power increase really isn't all that much. Like she would be around capable of defeating King Piccolo if she could realize her true strength.
Yeah.
But all that would change when Raditz shows up.
Exactly. So yeah, that's the thing. It would be it would be a curious mystery for Dragon Ball, but other than that, she's not the kind of training person. It's not in her inclination, so she wouldn't really increase. She'd just be the first legend.
And I don't
Super
think
Saiyan is all.
Unless you gave some kind of onus, like have her come to a realization, or have her memories be restored when Raditz arrives and tells the story of the Saiyans, which would first require her to be at Kame House when it happened. I think it really wouldn't change her all that much, because if she doesn't know she's a Saiyan, then she has no reason to be involved with any of the story-related aspects of the Saiyan, of the Saiyan race.
Unless he would fall in love with her, like in Arendar universe, and be like, "Oh, hello there. My name is Raditz."
Raditz and Launch as a pairing is going to be like my forever fave.
Yeah.
Because of R&R.
Yeah. Seaton 2. What if Goku's Kamehameha actually killed Piccolo Jr. in the Piccolo Jr. saga? Well, if it did, then there'd be no. It'd be much more difficult to fight against Raditz, because there'd be no one strong enough to help him.
We probably have to play the sound.
Yeah. I think that answers your question, Seaton. It would not end well, so I think we'll move on. Manifesto. Here is something to think about. What if Devil Artemis or Kagi voiced a character in R&R? Maybe that would be a cameo thing. Funny or cool? Well, I think Kagi actually, if I remember correctly, did audition. But again, I actually actively don't cast people who have a really big following, because the whole point of R&R is to... I swing against that, because I want this to be all about new talent, or talent which is relatively small, because I want to find new and up-and-coming talent. And
Kagi already voices an official Saiyan character.
Yeah, exactly.
So
so basically, Charlotte made a cameo, maybe. I don't know. So that kind of stuff.
If we could get the permission.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, if we could get permission, exactly. We have to do all that kind of legitimate stuff. But yeah, Matt, I think that's your answer. I'm afraid. Red Dragon again. Force 2. Peter Rees asks, what if future Bulma were to come back instead of or with Trunks? I'd love to see what impact her character could have on the Cell Saga. Well, if future Bulma came back, there's no denying everyone would know who that is, and that might upset the thing. And I think Bulma didn't go back because, they would know who she was, and that they had no idea how time worked. It could have destroyed the fabric of space-time if she came back.
Yeah, she was being super cautious.
Basically, the only reason she would come back is she felt like Trunks could not do the job. Basically, she had no faith in her own son, which is very damning.
Or he was dead.
Or if she'd have no choice, basically. So there would be a lot.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people aren't entirely aware of the fact that Trunks doesn't return to the future after he comes and takes care of Frieza and Cold. He immediately, and I know it's kind of difficult to realize because of how many episodes there are between Trunks leaving after he defeats Frieza and Cold and his return, but he doesn't go back to the future and then return to the past. He travels to that point in the Android saga from his destruction of Frieza and Cold.
I don't think that is the case, because I remember that they had to go back. He did have to go back because of fuel. That's from what I remember.
Did he? Because I was always under the impression that it was supposed to be a one-trip situation, where he travels to the point to give Goku the medicine, and then he travels forward to the Android saga.
I remember something saying that he had to go back to the future.
I agree with Sophie. Listen, I think it's a dubism or something, because I agree with Sophie. I remember it the same way she does. So I think it might be a dubism.
And even if it isn't a dubism, okay, let's assume Masako is right and he had to return to the future, then it doesn't make any sense, because at that point they would already know, we're working on multiverse theory. There's no longer a reason. And I mean, even you guys in Dragon Ball Z Abridged, even you guys approached it from the situation that it was all done in one trip, because when Trunks gets back, he makes it very clear to his mother that, like, hey, this whole trip was like really freaking awful, and Vegeta was horrible, by the way.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll withdraw that. I'll stand down. Anyway, Bender, 1986. What if Goku was a Namekian and Piccolo was a Saiyan? Goku would be very miserable because the food would be awful. There'd be no food.
Well, that would make Kami a Saiyan as well.
It would make Kami a Saiyan.
Here's the problem. If Piccolo was a Saiyan, you would have to be talking about Piccolo Senior in this case, King Piccolo. And the problem is that King Piccolo wouldn't be able to create an egg of himself. He would be defeated by this Namekian Goku. Okay, he would be defeated by the Namekian Goku, and when he's defeated, he would simply have died, and Kami would have died along with him because of that. So it would have spelled very, very bad things if and when Namekian and Raditz showed up.
Oof, yeah, but okay, that's fair. That is definitely fair. Nick Wolf, what if Dragon Ball R&R and Dragon Shorts had a crossover? Ah, yes, the Dragon Shorts machinimas. Well, I do plan to ask in the future to write an episode of Dragon Shorts. So maybe if there's some kind of nod to R&R in some way. I'll see if I can do that.
That would be cool.
I'll see if I can do that, or like something in the dialogue or something like that. Or one of our ideas in R&R we can ship over the TFS universe.
I enjoyed that first episode of Dragon Shorts.
We'll see, definitely. Todd Terrence. Barbady's magic only controls people with evil intentions. What if Barbady wished for full control and made Majin Goku or Majin Gohan? If basically he used the dragon to make it so that means he could have full control of Goku, that would be the end of everybody.
Yeah, because if Goku, if he could get full control and he didn't have to worry about people overcoming his brainwashing, he didn't have to worry about them having evil hearts or anything like that, and he could just take control of Goku, that would mean that Goku now has no reason whatsoever to hold back, which means Super Saiyan 3 from the get-go. He defeats all of the Z fighters who are there, but Babidi doesn't realize, oh, this is a dead fighter that I am dealing with. So Goku passes on because his time limit is up because he's used too much energy. And so then Babidi is like, well, what am I supposed to do now? Especially if Goku defeats all of the good guys too fast, and he winds up not getting enough energy to resurrect Majin Buu. So it could wind up silly in that regard.
It could backfire, and then when Goku went back to the future, Pikkon might be the only one who'd be able to, like... Pikkon and Alibu would be the only ones to be able to try and, like, calm him down. Or maybe the effect would wear off due to Barbady being too far away. Or something like that. Or that being in a completely other dimension. Or something like that.
Or just the fact that, like, his death... Because, you know, Vegeta isn't resurrected as a Majin, even when he's brought back through Baba's abilities. He's not brought back as Majin Vegeta, so maybe death kind of undoes the magic, so...
Yeah. Magma's up next. What if Yamcha was a Saiyan? And what if Android 17 stuck around with Z Fighters after the Cell games? Well, we answered the what if 17 stuck around thing. He would end up probably trying to stick his nose in with Krillin and 18's business. But if Yamcha was a Saiyan, everyone keeps on saying that with Krillin, he would exploit the Zenkai. No, Yamcha would exploit the Zenkai. Yamcha would game the system. Krillin wouldn't.
I am toying with a concept for a what if that explores the if, when, and how of why of Yamcha becoming a Saiyan. If he was already a Saiyan, like the implication is that, like, oh, he kind of looks similar to the Saiyans. What if he actually was one but didn't know it? He is an orphan after all. You know, maybe that would mean that he would have just had much better power gains throughout the series. He would have been more relevant, you know, like everybody else. But if he became a Saiyan, I think that the primary onus on that would be to take revenge against Vegeta. I'm toying with an idea right now for what if Yamcha became a Saiyan, where he makes a wish during the time skip of the Android saga. After Bulma breaks up with him and he learns that she's shacked up with Vegeta, that's kind of the key point. I could see Yamcha being at his lowest, where he might consider seeking out the Dragon Balls and trying to even the playing field so that he could have his one-on-one with Vegeta.
Right.
And he would absolutely exploit the Zenkai in every way he could. He'd probably even try to, like, enlist Tien's help or something like that. Maybe even Goku's.
Okay.
But that's a what if I'm toying with.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll see that. Manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
In Dragon Ball Super, what if Good Buu spat out or removed South Kai and Daikaio from him? Would that spell bad news? Maybe another Super Buu came about. Uh-oh. Well, the whole point is that Good Buu, he wouldn't spit them out. That's the whole point. I think they've been in his body for millions of years. It's probably too late for them, because I think the whole
They are
point
part
is,
of him.
they
They
are
melted
they're
into
part
him.
of him.
His consciousness, basically.
So basically, Boo's entire psyche would completely dissolve. But he can bring them up to the surface. But yeah, Manifesto, it would indeed spell bad news. It would just mean that, you know, he'd become deconstituted. There'd be nothing left of him. So in that regard, yes. Ryguy92250, what if Yamcha was more than a gag character? Well, look at the case of being reincarnated as Yamcha. Not for the fact of what the whole person possessing Yamcha's body, but it just shows what Yamcha was capable of if, you know, if he actually put his mind to it.
Yeah. If he'd elected to apply himself a little more early on, especially when it came to like the possibility of maybe training alongside Krillin and Goku earlier, if he'd been and if let's assume that we're taking Bulma's words at face value, and that the reason they broke up originally is because he was fickle and wishy-washy and possibly cheated on her. If he was more loyal and he was a more faithful companion, and he also spent more of his time trying to improve himself, I think that he might have had a lot of potential. In fact, I think he could have probably rivaled Goku and Piccolo in those early arcs, especially because he does make some pretty good gains, especially considering the fact that of all of the Z fighters, he trains like the least. And yet he was able to break 1400 thanks to Kami's training for the Saiyan saga. There was potential there. Yeah. And so I think he could have been better.
He definitely could have been better. Next up is the other white nerd. What if Goku's tail regrew in the other world? Well, if it did grow in the other world, I think Goku would just get it removed again. Because I'm thinking he's like, this, I don't really need it anymore. Because yes, at the time, he did comment when he had it removed, is that his balance was a little off. But, you know, he's kind of gotten past it. He's like gotten used to not having it. So I think it would probably throw him off his game. So he'd probably just like, oh no, I don't like that. No. He probably would end up getting rid of it.
Yeah, remember that the whole tail revelation is the part of. So yeah, at this point, it was a additional weakness.
Yeah, exactly. And Toriyama got rid of the tail eventually because he didn't like having to deal with the whole thing. Oh, more about pants and all that stuff, that trousers and animating it, and drawing it. He got lazy. Frostbite. What if Mortal Kombat events were in the Dragon Ball Z world? Mortal Kombat characters no ki, and gods like Raiden has God Ki, Johnny Cage, green power, can hurt evil gods. It'd probably be a lot bloodier. You could certainly not put it on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically I'd just say it'd be a lot more mature, and it would certainly be a lot darker, I would say. So,
yeah.
Sorry about
and
that.
Goku wouldn't let Shao Kahn finish his monologue.
No, exactly.
Dick him in the nose.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd have a lot of more gags in that one, definitely. Manifesto. What if Wrathful Form fought Super Saiyan 4? Which would win? I'd say probably it'd be fairly equal. Because really, Wrathful Form is the Super Saiyan 4 of Super, pretty much. It's just like a rejigged Super Saiyan 4. So I'd say if you put the two of them in together, the powers would be very similar.
Yeah, and I mean, we already kind of know from the periphery media and stuff like that, the stuff like Super Dragon Ball Heroes, etc., etc. Even if you don't want to take those canon, those materials treat Super Saiyan 4 and Super Saiyan Blue as relatively equal. Honestly, I feel like if Super Saiyan 4 Goku from like the GT era were to face off against Broly, he would probably lose, much the same as Goku and Vegeta each lost independently up until they fused into Gogeta.
Yeah, okay, that's reasonable. It's Icy Pal. What if Earth had 10 times gravity? Well, I would say the Saiyans would have no trouble on it at all. But if it was like basically Earth had 10 times gravity all along, really the whole revelation and King Kai's training probably wouldn't have made much of a difference because they'd have been used to it. So it would have meant that King Kai's training was not as potent because, you know, that's 10 times gravity. So it'd be like, it's exactly the same as it is on Earth. So I think it would have meant that, you know, Goku's training would not been as, you know, beneficial. I think that's pretty much the long and the short of it is, really. That's the only difference. It just would not have been as potent. Jared Glasspool. What if Goku and Krillin in Dragon Ball was trained with swords instead of fisticuffs? Well, it would certainly look a lot cooler, and it would be a lot more like, it would be basically more like Dragon Quest, I would say. And also, I mean, at that time, if the swords were really strong, then they might be able to be useful. But basically, if they were trained with swords and they broke, they'd be done because they'd have no means to counter. Like, they rely on the sword, and if you don't know how to do melee as well as using, you know, with your fists as well as your swords, you're pretty much like left really floundering. So
Trunks would love that universe.
True sword fighting teaches you more than just the use of the sword itself as a weapon, especially if you're talking a European sword. And even with katana, you learn more about martial arts and stuff like that than just swinging the blade. And a lot of the times, especially in Japan, you know, katana had to be made from very, very poor quality iron. That's why they invented the folding techniques in order to strengthen it. But that meant that a lot of blades that weren't made properly would break. And so samurai who trained in these methods had to know other ways of fighting. I think the big difference would be, okay, so they use the sword as their primary weapon. Maybe they get a futuristic sword somewhere down the line with like Bulma's technology or anything like that. But if the sword breaks, they have their backup with their martial arts. And what's more is if they learn ki control, we've seen the fact that ki can be manipulated and shaped into a blade. So we would probably be seeing them utilizing techniques kind of similar to like Kuwabara in Yu Yu Hakusho, where they do utilize energy swords.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. No, that seems, yeah, sorry, because we do see with Vegito the spirit sword. So it can be done. It has been done. Right Guy 922. What if Cooler's Armored Squadron had a spin-off series? It would be basically just the Armored Squadron would always have it'd be a turf war with the Ginyu Force, pretty much. Yo, the Ginyu Force are the high flyers, and the Cooler Armored Squadron, they're the underdogs. It pretty much just be that West Side Story, but between the Armored Squadron and Ginyu Force. That's pretty much all I gotta say.
And they will frequently visit the shopping mall.
Yeah. White Oak 19. What if Caulifla and Nappa swapped places?
She would have been a baby at this point, if not earlier.
Yeah, basically, well, the whole point of Nappa being there was meant to be Vegeta's mentor and carer. If Caulifla was at the same point, she'd have been a baby. Yeah, as you say, she would have been a baby, or probably not even been born yet. But if let's
assume
they're the same age.
Yeah,
there'd be more of a rivalry because of the the age gap not being really that different, or being.
And I think personality wise, I feel like Caulifla is quite the hothead. I feel like she would butt heads with Vegeta as often as listen to him, and I think that honestly, when she showed up on Earth, I don't know if she would be super quick to want to kill any of the people on Earth if they give her a good fight, because Caulifla is very much modeled to be sort of Universe's 6's version of a kind of gender bent Goku, just one that was prone to more like delinquent behavior. You know, she's got that very Sukeban personality type. I think she wouldn't want to kill a lot of the Earthlings because she would have that same feeling as Goku of like, no way, man, I want them to get stronger and give me more challenges in the future. Or even trying to appeal to Vegeta, being like, we could enlist these guys. Maybe they could help us overthrow Frieza, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Manifesto. What if Ghost Rider powers existed in Dragon Ball? Not the Marvel character, the powers. Who would wield these demonic powers? Penance Stare.
Trunks, we talked about this. Trunks.
Oh yeah, we've talked about this.
Trunks.
Future Trunks.
Future Trunks. That'd be
Future Trunks as the Ghost Rider.
Basically,
Yeah,
Trunks just going, "Let's ride," all that kind of stuff.
Now I want fan art of future Trunks, like as Ghost Rider on the motorcycle with the sword and the chain.
Yeah.
Dr. Bones will probably end up doing that. I know he will.
Oh my god! So cool! So dumb, but so cool.
Hey Masako, did you ever do a what if Trunks died and Gohan went to the past instead? If that's not, that's what a what if I got. Okay, I don't think we've done that specifically. But no, we haven't. So basically, I think at that
That's
time...
a good one.
It is a good one. We'll make a note of it. We'll probably end up doing that in the fullness of time. We just need to finish a few of our stalwart what-ifs first. But I would say probably Gohan would probably be a bit more factual and also be a bit more, like, you know, conflicted in seeing his dad again and that kind of stuff. It'd be a lot more tempting. Yeah, it'd be a lot more. He'd have to resist a lot more. But we'll keep our mouth stum in case we do an actual video. So watch this space. Manifesto. What if Gohan trained after the Cell games? Well, basically, I think if he did, and he was still, and if he trained the same as he was doing, like, you know, he had that new fervor, he'd have been able to access Super Saiyan 2 much more easily, and he would also pretty much be. It actually might have meant that Boo would have ended up being, resurrected quicker, because if he was stronger, they'd have sucked up more energy, and then Boo would have been released, and they wouldn't have had any chance to counter in Barbady's ship, and, yeah. Maybe no Majin Vegeta, because Majin Vegeta wouldn't have been required. So pretty much just that, really. White Oak 19 again. What if the Tuffles and Saiyans lived in relative harmony? Well, they had been doing for about 2 decades. It was just there was a flashpoint that led to a war, and that led to basically the Ozaru making the most of that full moon, which was very rare on planet Vegeta. So basically, they sort of did, because...
Well, let's assume that the war doesn't happen. Yeah. So the central premise of the question is clearly like, what if the war between Saiyans and Tuffles didn't happen? There would still be an issue. And that's largely because of the fact that even if they lived in relative harmony, eventually Frieza, or rather King Cold, I should say, the Cold Force would eventually make their way out to that outer region. And even if the Tuffles and the Saiyans worked together, they probably wouldn't be capable of defeating the Cold Force. So what you would instead have is you'd wind up with a joint society, both under the control of the Cold Force, and you'd probably wind up with a lot more like Tuffle Saiyan hybrids. You'd probably wind up with mixed squads where, like, if you were to say take like Bardock's squad in the special, instead of being composed entirely of Saiyan warriors, you would probably have some tech-savvy individuals from the Tuffles there as well. So it would probably be an interesting premise for like a what if Goku was a Tuffle Saiyan hybrid or something. Sort of what if.
Okay. As I phrase it, what if future Trunks took Cold up on his offer? If he did, he'd have ended up dead, because Cold would have found some way to trick him. But that's the thing. Cold would have ended up tricking him, shooting him out of an airlock, all that kind of stuff. He'd have done something to get what he wanted, and then, yeah, it would have ended up badly for Trunks. No, I'm not going to play the sound because it would only have ended up badly for Trunks. White Oak 19. What if Goku learned to change now? Would he, though? Unless he wanted to use it in case his body was, like, really injured. But the trouble is, though, he would still have the same trouble. And I think we saw with Ginyu the limitations of change now. Is if you don't know the body, you don't have time to get used to it, it's kind of useless. It's useless if you don't have time to adapt. So
I know what might have happened.
Go on.
Zamasu wouldn't have been able to steal his body.
Yes.
Because if Goku learns change now, let's just assume that he learned it because, he had it used on him in the Namek Saga, right? He now has this technique in his back pocket. He doesn't use it because he likes his body, and he's the strongest, so why does he need to take another one? But then Zamasu shows up with this wish on the Dragon Balls. His body is suddenly not his own. Hey, guess what? He may not have full control over his over Zamasu's body right away, but he might have just enough time to summon up enough ki to do that technique, which is designed to be used at low health anyways.
It doesn't require that much power.
Yeah, it doesn't require that much power. So what ends up happening is Zamasu takes his body, wasting a wish on the Super Dragon Balls, only to then have Goku steal it back and be like, "What you doing?"
Zamasu is like crab baskets.
And then Goku probably would have destroyed him.
Yeah.
Not in my house.
Yeah. Matthew Gaylord, what if Goku had the Devil Might beam? When? Up to you. So if Goku had the Devil Might beam.
And that's the one that kills people with evil in their heart, right?
Yeah. So basically, if he did, it would basically be like his test thing. You know how he says, "You're not all, a bad guy, you know. I'll prove it." Oh, and it turns out they were bad. Oh. Well, my sense of judgment's really bad. He probably would just use it as a means to test if the person was good or not, instead of just going constantly, "You're not evil, you know. You don't have to do this. Just say you're sorry." He'd have just used it as a test. He wouldn't have used it as an actual attack. He'd have just tried to use it to, like...
Broly, yeah, you are super good. Let's check it. Okay. Okay, it's good. He's good. He's good, guys.
It's just like, he's good. He's on the level. Andres Morero. What if someone wished for a younger sister or daughter and got a half-dragon hybrid who was then turned into a cyber half-dragon?
That seems oddly specific. Why the half-dragon hybrid? And why would...
The only way is like with the monkey's paw. Like, if you got some kind of curse on your family or something, or if you phrased the wish in a way that seemed quite garbled, or Shenron took something a bit literal. So I would say that's the only thing. Basically, moral is, if you get the Dragon Balls, be careful what you wish for, Andres. So I think that's the only thing I can say, really. Anime Guy 01. What if Goku was born first and Raditz second? So if Goku... There probably might be a bit more respect towards Goku, in a way. Because, Raditz would see him as his older brother. But at the same time, if he sees that his older brother's making, stupid decisions, he probably would have actually been more insulted. Because the fact is, you're supposed to be my older brother and you're not giving me guidance. You're acting like a fool. How dare you?
Yeah, he could be more competitive against him.
True. So I think more competition, more rivalry in that regard. Compass Rose. What if Zamasu was good? What if Zamasu pulled a Nameless Namekian and used the Super Dragon Balls to split his good and evil halves apart? Well, the thing is, he wasn't an evil... He didn't have two beings inside of him. It was basically... He was a fairly neutral guy who then got bad ideas and they manifested. That's the thing. So basically... Zamasu is, in theory, a good person. Kais are meant to be benevolent. But he just got a bad idea in his brain and it didn't shift. So, unless he wanted to try and do a wish to say, basically, I don't like these thoughts, get them out of my head. That's pretty much what he would do. He'd just say, I don't want to think of this. Basically, take my mind back to where it was before I started thinking these things. And Super Shenron could do that easily. So basically, that's what he would do. He would just erase his memory up to a certain point. So yeah, there you go. Cody Connor, what if Shin was actually good at his job? We direct you to what if the Supreme Kai wasn't useless video. There's your answer. It's a very riveting read, so look for that video. Evan is Majevich. What if Cell made another Cell Jr. before being killed by Gohan, and this Cell Jr. grew up towards the Buu Saga? Look to the manga. Look to the manga, because if you look on 17...
It's official. It's kind of official.
Yeah, there you go. Pretty much like that. OCR Blythe. What if the What If universes started to blend? What if Raditz Tengu got blended with What If Frieza listened to Goku or any other? That is What Iffinity. We are working on something like that. We just need to pick the medium that is the most efficient and cost-effective, pretty much. Once we do, we will come up with something. But basically, we want to make sure it is as good as it can be and can be made efficiently. So, do watch this space. Jared Glasspool. What if after the Tournament of Power, 17 wished for all the planets and people that were erased being brought back to life and placed in Universe 7? Well, to be honest, I thought that was what was going to happen. Because for the longest time, they could have done that. If Universe 7 turned out to be the only, universe in existence, the fact was, though, there were lots of empty space and empty planets. Just bring everybody over for a sleepover. That's what I thought.
That would mean a lot of unemployed.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I thought was going to happen. That seemed like the most obvious thing. Okay, everyone in all the universes is brought back into one, leaving all these new worlds to explore.
Everyone is here, and you have the super smart
It would literally be everyone is here. Yeah, pretty much.
I had a different thought. I was in that camp of people who thought that the who always kind of figured that the TOP was going to turn out to be a test, and I always was in that camp of people who thought that when they wished back all of the universes that were destroyed, it was going to bring back the universes Zeno had already destroyed before as well. And that would be the source of our new conflict.
Oh yeah, no, I thought that was one of my scenarios as well. That basically Goku.
I mean, we still don't know if this happened.
Yeah, I thought Goku would make the wish. He'd make it too literal to wish back all the universes, and there was some reason why Zeno destroyed those universes. If there was some kind of evil force in there, that's basically being too literal with a wish. The Jurassic Show. Thanks for covering if Goku was found by the Red Ribbon Army. You're welcome. I do feel a combined story, but it was logical conclusion of your FAQ. Well, thank you, Jurassic. So, again, check the FAQ video. If you have a what if, we might have answered them in there for the most often asked. So, thank you, Jurassic. As I phrase it, if Raditz escaped, not necessarily turning good. Well, if Raditz escaped without anything, and where would he go? Basically, if he went back to Vegeta and Nappa, he'd have more of the same life. He'd have ended up being a laughingstock. They probably would have killed him or abandoned him somewhere. Basically, he'd go back to Tales from the Universe. His pride would have been ruined.
You know what could happen?
I think.
Probably. I have an idea. I will present my view. Okay, Sophie first, and then.
Yeah. Go ahead.
He probably could end up being caught by the Galactic Patrol and might wind up around Moro's people and join Moro later on.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
That's a pretty good idea.
Basically, the Jarko would have been more than powerful enough to take him in.
Yeah.
So basically, he might have ended up as being a Moro minion. Cool. That's a very good point.
And I could also see him going into hiding in the underworld. Kind of similar to the Freedom Fighter Raditz concept. It's one of those situations where if he's defeated, but he does manage to escape, I think he would make his way to the first Frieza Force base that he could find, and he'd get healed up before anybody had an opportunity to really kind of grill him on his failures, right? And then he would flee, and he'd flee into the deepest portions of the Empire, and he'd take his safety in the underworld. And maybe that would lead him to joining up with some tough customers of some kind.
Okay. Animandra asks, what if Goku and Raditz were twins? We've already covered this earlier. Basically, Raditz would be the more protective one, probably more aggressive, all that kind of stuff. So we did cover that a little earlier. Nightblade 370, what if Launch was a Saiyan sent to Earth like Goku, unaware of her heritage but a Saiyan from birth? Again, we've covered that already. Basically...
Yeah, we kind of covered that already.
Yeah, because she's a Super Saiyan without really realizing it, but she's not really inclined to train, so yeah, she does get a power boost, but after King Piccolo, she wouldn't really be much use, or not really know what of it. Dustin Rogers does a super chat, but pointing out the sound's real low. Don't worry, we'll fix that. Paparazza, I did tag you earlier if we missed a $5 one, but I think we did get it. It was listed, but in case not, tag either myself, Sophie, or Haverok, and we'll get to you if that was the case. Isaiah Fraser, what if Raditz was a deserter? If Vegeta and Nappa didn't know where he went? If he went to Earth to be away from ridicule, but still the strongest Saiyan? Well, first off, if that happened, we did cover that recently just now. He'd have either gone into hiding in the underworld, as you said, Sophie. He would end up being caught by the Galactic Patrol. But if he came to Earth, and he'd have had to destroy a scouter, definitely. But then eventually, I think they would have thought, well, he may still be on Earth. Why hasn't he come back? Let's go and get him, or something like that. So basically, Raditz, like in our Turned Good series, would have ended up having to join the side of our Z Fighters to just make sure that he wouldn't be brought back and then have to suffer under Lord Frieza.
And I am going to be toying with a similar concept that's not quite the same with my future series for what if Raditz escaped Earth with Gohan. In the sense that I don't want him turning good. He's going to become a villain for the series. Just, not exactly a spoiler, but like that's kind of the key point I'm working on with that.
Okay.
But because the Dragon Balls are never mentioned in any capacity in his presence, and because he's pretty aware that like his failure of his mission means that he doesn't want to associate with Vegeta, Nappa, or the Frieza Force. Like Frieza's not attacking Namek. We don't know what Vegeta and Nappa are up to. It's all going to be explained in the what if, but like that is kind of a scenario that's going to be touched on in that series once I get it put out.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. Well, we'll look forward to that. Nick Wolf, what if Goku and Gohan, by the way, killed Super Buu and Vegeta's soul reincarnated? How would that affect Goku, Bulma, Topple, Kid, and future Trunks? Well, we did sort of cover that first bit in the lightning round. Basically, they would have killed Super Buu, they'd have gotten the job done, all that kind of stuff. But if Vegeta's soul was reincarnated, because technically his body was not... He didn't have a body. So if enough time was made before they can bring back Vegeta, he'd have been born into a kid or a person or an animal named Atajev. My name Jev. All that kind of stuff.
Jev.
It's like, my name Jev. So basically like that, because that's the rule of the way. If you're reincarnated, your name's spelled backwards, pretty much. But it would affect Goku. One of his rivals is gone, and they would have to wait until I actually find it. Or it would have ended up just basically be like, with Oob. They'd had to like basically discover someone who had a similar key. It's that kind of stuff. Axis Skyen. What if Goten was the first son?
I actually have been...
Go on.
I've been doing some thinking on this, okay? And I think that what would have wound up happening is that Raditz would have managed to escape Earth with him in tow. And that's because of one major reason is there wouldn't be all that many differences in how they're brought up for those first 4 years or anything like that. Like, the biggest difference is that Goten doesn't have the same rage problems that Gohan has. No. And so he wouldn't have those flare-ups and rage boosts that send him into these out-of-control fighting modes, which would have been bad for Goku and Piccolo because that's the only reason they were even really able to defeat Raditz. And maybe they would have been able to defeat him, or at least maybe they would have been able to injure him enough that he had to flee. But I think he would have managed to get away with Goten, and that would have spelled trouble for people in the long run.
Yeah. Okay. That seems reasonable. WR. What if Bardock from Super Saiyan Special came back from the future to Earth right when Frieza and King Cold arrived and when met Trunks? Now, Super Saiyan Special... Oh, the episode of Bardock. Oh, okay.
Episode of Bardock.
If that were the case and Bardock's power was 10,000 and he became a Super Saiyan, he'd have still gotten his bum handed to him. Because, a Super Saiyan... But Mecha Frieza's power and King Cold's second form power is still more than enough to beat Bardock. Bardock would have just been a distraction. A good distraction for our heroes... but Trunks would have still been the one to finish him off. Basically, there'd have been a lot of explaining to do. Basically. And also, Bardock from the future. So, from Toa or something like that? But either way.
If maybe they're talking about Super Saiyan Bardock from like the Xenoverse series, in which case...
Okay, well in that case, Bardock would have beaten them and explained who he was. He might have been a bit more receptive to Goku's softer ways or something like that. But again, we've talked in many things that Bardock is not the kind of person to really kind of settle down. He'd have ended up just moving on to the next thing. But good to know that his son's doing okay. That pretty much just that, really.
Pleased to meet you. Now I'm going to do my own.
Yeah, exactly. Red Dragon Force 2. What if life debts were a thing in Dragon Ball? Well, life debts?
Life debts.
Like Wookiee life debt.
Oh, right.
Me and Haverok got this one covered.
Okay, go
Yeah.
on.
We're the Star Wars fans.
Go on,
Yeah.
go for it.
Well, I mean, it's not. If they were a thing, it's like, okay, well, first off, what race has them? Are you assuming like the Saiyan race has life
Saiyan.
debts?
Vegeta
'Cause
would
if
be
it's-
so angry. Yeah, Goku saving Vegeta would make it.
Here's the biggest issue would come from the when multiple life debts start to conflict.
Yeah.
Because technically speaking, Vegeta would be under the impression that he owed a life debt to Frieza, because Frieza takes him in after the planet's destruction. Basically, you know, he would be owed a life debt to Frieza, so he's giving Frieza his service in exchange for this, in exchange for keeping the debt. But then, when Goku spares his life, convinces Krillin to spare his life rather, on Earth, he would then owe Goku a life debt. Which means that when he comes to Namek and then has to fight alongside Gohan, Krillin, Goku, all of those people, he would be basically at this split, because he would be thinking, I have to honor my life debt to Frieza and I have to honor my life debt to Goku. But if he decided, well, Frieza's life debt's clearly a lie, I think it would just mean he would be a more loyal companion to Goku. He may not like him anymore than he already does, like, but he would be like, look, Kakarot, I've sworn a life debt to you, so I have to make sure that you don't die because it's part of my Saiyan honor.
Okay, I think that pretty much covers it. Isaiah Fraser next. What if Goku regularly did street fighting for easy income? Would Chi-Chi still be upset? Oh, definitely.
Yes,
Chi-Chi is
because that would make him a delinquent.
And Chi-Chi does not like delinquents and be a bad example for Gohan. So basically, she would basically say, look, we're not that desperate. But they'd have found another way to make money, but basically she would have just been like, no. Flat out no. And if she found out that he'd been doing it on the sly, oh, she probably would have, like, seriously contemplated about divorce. Like, basically just like...
She would approve of official fighting tournaments,
yeah,
but she would not approve of street fighting.
She's basically saying, why aren't you taking part in the World Martial Arts Tournament? Basically, she'd be saying, why are you being so dumb? Or something like that.
I'm a bad boy now, Chi-Chi.
I'm the bad guy. Duh.
Yeah, I imagine Goku, you know, with his hair to his back, like he did in that suit episode, you know,
basically,
in like
Goku
greaser style.
Goku would just say, I'm a bad boy now, and then basically do the L sign. Basically just like, whatever. Auto Johnny, what if Masako, Haverok, and Sophie B were fighters in Dragon Ball? Well, I'd be basically the Berta one, because I always rely on speed. I'd be a speed demon.
I am brute force, like 100%. I'm the kind of brute force person who loves two things: heavy hits and huge beam powers. Like, I use like the times 100 Kamehameha and stuff like that, or the times 10 Kamehameha in Xenoverse. I use the perfect Kamehameha or the super spirit bomb. I throw tons and tons of points into strength. If I was a fighter in that universe, I think that despite the fact that I would want to still be human, like my avatar it has the space armor but is actually supposed to be human, I would be like almost the epitome of the brash sort of Saiyan character in as much as I just go in there and I start wailing.
Yeah.
I would be the one with the weird powers, definitely. Like,
the one with the
and then if not the weird gimmicky powers, I would go for something like Babidi or Moro.
Okay.
Magic, yeah.
Cool. Anime Andrew's up next. If you crossed over the Dragon Ball series with another anime, what would it be? Fist of the North Star. Pretty much just that. Basically, you have this... It basically just be Universe 9. You know, world's gone to pot. You have to make a living and stuff like that. Oh, dude, could you imagine Bergamo and the Trio de Danger in in the world of of Fist of the
Yeah.
North Star. That'd be so cool. That'd be so cool. But I think that's pretty much that would be my answer. Compass Rose. Sorry for the duplicate from before. Didn't realize I already sent it. What if Kid Buu repented? What if the Genki Dama purified Buu? Well, the thing is though, Kid Buu, he wouldn't have repented. He is pure evil. He is the most concentrated form of evil possible in the Buu's form. Evil Buu was evil, but not the most evil he could have been. That's the thing. So basically, Kid Buu is, weaker than Super Buu, but it's just pure chaos and you can't predict his movements, and that makes him dangerous. So basically, Buu wouldn't have repented. He's not physically capable.
And Kid Buu being that kind of incarnation of pure evil, he is very much not mentally capable of even considering. Like it's a divide by zero scenario for him to even consider conceding to the forces of good, to think that he is in the wrong, because he doesn't even conceive of right and wrong. He just knows what is enjoyable to him, which is killing and everything else like that. It is utter chaos. So basically, and honestly, when push comes to shove, the fact that he is defeated by the Super Spirit Bomb and is later reincarnated into a pure good boy, Oob, that kind of is a purification, of a sort, because it means that his spirit was able to be cleansed in the end and used to create a good human character.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Now, Podo asks, what if Toriyama and Araki swapped manga? Well, I actually realized that they both started off writing manga in the 80s. An 80s manga artist and mangaka, they basically do not consider that the internet was going to be a thing. So they mainly write a lot of things that they do, and especially with Araki, they write powers or things that happen and then never bring attention to them again. He never forgets. Yeah. Toriyama forgets. Araki doesn't forget. He just doesn't want you to remember. That's the difference. But if they swap manga, you get Dragon Ball being a lot more serious and more flamboyant, and JoJo would end up just being a lot of jokes and not taking itself too seriously. Pretty much. Goku would be really stylish. And also, characters would age up properly. Araki knows how aging works, despite the fact he doesn't age. So,
Well, age up properly. I mean, come on. They start off looking like adults.
From certain
it's the other way around. It's the other way around.
It's the other way around. They're never really children.
Well, but people don't complain as much in that regard.
I've shown Maz that great fan comic with, how Goten and Trunks will age. You have Goten and Trunks from Super, and which is like, why those little craps are so small, lol, and he just hits them with his stick and makes them into their end of Z.
Yeah, and the Ginyu.
You got a prop.
The Ginyu.
Oh my gosh.
Boombox. Yeah, basically they'd be dancing the dance from Part 5.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh no.
It would be vocal percussion on a whole other level. Pretty much. Warrior D13. What if Trunks, Marin, and Goten wished to meet their grandparents? If they did, it'd be an interesting thing.
They want so badly for Bardock and Gine to come back.
Yeah.
and also King Vegeta.
And King Vegeta.
But the most complicated one and most interesting one I want to focus on would be Maron, because we don't know anything about 18's parents and Krillin's parents.
I would imagine Krillin's father was a monk, because obviously, son, you are going to become a monk just like me and stuff like that.
He was
I don't know, because there is a lot of, because that's the thing, is if it's based off of the Shaolin, a lot of those monks tend to take vows of celibacy.
Yeah.
And usually you are sent there. You either go there of your own accord, or your parents send you there because they want you to have a better life. I would suspect that Krillin's family were probably farmers.
I think he was an orphan. I think it was mentioned that he was raised there.
Okay.
He was an orphan.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Now, Nick Wolf asks, real talk, have you watched J House Law's video on the FTC Copper YouTube thing? I haven't read it, but I have done my research on it, and believing basically based on my demographics, as well as the content being rather dry for kids, my videos are very much not made for kids, because they would be very boring to children, because I'm basically talking to them. I'd be just like, and now you are hearing me talk about this potential theory about 13th century Knight Templars. Look at how interesting this is related to the symbolism behind this character. Not exactly child material. It's like, so I've done my research, and I've talked with my network manager, and I've talked with my YouTube partner manager. So yeah, I think we're all good. We're all good here. To be honest, you guys in America are worrying about COPA like we did with Article 13 last year. So pretty much we are like, war never changes. Yeah. Pretty much, it's just another thing, pretty much. So I'm over it. Brendan Little. Villa can be nice, so what if Hercule and Gohan got inspired by the Saiyaman movie and proceeded to turn it into a multiple movie saga, complete with Saiya Woman and other Z-Fighter appearances? Oh, he totally would. Gohan would probably do it, you know, just as a bit of fun, and bring Videl as Saiya Woman, or, you know, Saiyaman 2. You know, because that
Saiyaman Cinematic Universe.
Oh, the SCU, of course. That's pretty much it. I haven't got much else to say, Brendan. You're right, pretty much just that. You know, Gohan and Hercule, they probably might do it for fun, so long as it doesn't take up too many conferences. Something like that. Or maybe he can go to conventions. He goes to conventions and conferences. That's how he justifies it to himself. So yeah. OCR Blythe. What if Goku landed on Yardrat as a baby instead of Earth? Also appearing, I hope you're all having a good day. Love from the US Army out here. Well, thank you, Blythe, and thank you for your service. But if he landed in Yardrat, oh, it'd be a very interesting. And
now that we know more about Yardratian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we know more. I would say they probably would take care of him. And they probably would end up just teaching him all the key control just because.
Yeah. They are not warriors.
And they're troublemakers and they're pranksters. And they'd be thinking, oh my god, this is so cool. They'd find it really interesting. As like some kind of experiment. Pretty much that, really. Thankfully, we now know so much more about Yardrat. It's so cool. Lars Wolfblade, what if Android 16 is programmed to dunk anyone in their sight with no reason or warning? That is called Dragon Ball FighterZ. Come at me, punk, if you want to die. It basically, if he did, instead of trying to self-destruct, he'd have just dunked Cell, perfect Cell, and then the Cell games would have been over. Pretty much. Moving on. Manifesto. What if Champa and Vardos were introduced in the Battle of Gods movie first, and Beerus and Whis came into the Super Series later? Interesting switcheroo. Champa would have just been much more irrational, and if he was losing to Goku, he'd have just ended up straight killing him. Like, he would have not been anywhere near as tolerant of having, like, a mortal besting him in something like that. It'd be too embarrassing.
Then again, if in that scenario, Champa had, if, say, Champa was the god of destruction for that universe, right? And so he had Earth, and he had all of the food. Even if he got into a fight with Majin Buu, I don't think that he would have taken it out on the Earth. I think that Champa, as opposed to Beerus, would have just Hakkai'd Buu and then said, bring me more pudding.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's true. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, they wouldn't have had to bust out the Super Saiyan God technique to fight Champa at all, because he would be so focused on the food. Like, when Buu starts to pick a fight with him over the pudding thing, he would just be like, okay, enough. Hakkai, bring me more pudding, please.
Yeah, that is actually very true. He does like his pudding. And Vardos would be saying, oh, honestly. Tempest Mask 1000. What if Tao had Ultra Divine Water? Well, in theory, he'd die. He would die, I believe, because it's meant to be for the worthy or the strong. Tao is sort of strong. But then again, if Tao had Ultra Divine Water.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that there was a distinct implication that the Ultra Divine Water is kind of a placebo effect, because you have to do the whole thing with Korin in order to get it, right? And there's a distinct possibility that Tao wouldn't have really gained all that much from it anyways, even if he was permitted to truly drink it.
He's not very successful.
Yeah.
So basically, he might have drunk it, realized that it doesn't do anything, and he probably would have ended up, taking it out on Corin.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And even if it, and I mean, if it was supposed, and like you said, if it worked as it was described, him being an evil person wouldn't have paid dividends for him, because he would have drank it and would have probably either harmed him or even killed him.
Yeah.
So he kind of loses out either way.
Yeah, it doesn't end up well for him. He doesn't deserve to have the sound play though. Master Riku, what if Dragon Ball Universe and Kingdom Hearts had a crossover? Well, there'd certainly be no blood, that's for sure. And there'd be a lot more brooding shots, and Goku going, I don't know whether I can do this. My mind, I need to. I love the ProZD's thing about, do you believe the light will beat the darkness? No, I believe the darkness will beat the light. Pretty much just like
a lot of talking about darkness and friendship, that's for sure.
Yeah, pretty much just that, really. It'd be just a lot more brooding, I would say. Marina Mores, what if the Dragon Balls didn't depend on Piccolo to exist, only Kami? Well, they wouldn't have been as bummed out when Piccolo died. Like, it wouldn't have had major implications. And there wouldn't have been as much of an urgency to get to Namek. They would have gone to Namek to try and get it done quicker, but the urgency to get to... Well, actually, it meant Frieza would have gotten immortality. So actually, it was for the best that they needed to bring Piccolo back, because with Kami, it done. So yeah, actually, I'll play the sound. Piccolo had to die, so that means everyone else would live and Frieza wouldn't get his wish. Pretty much, that's the long and the short of it. Kenshin491, what if Gohan had a twin? Well, if Gohan had a twin... he probably would. It would have just been like the same. But if they had the same rage power, imagine those two training. That would be really intense. So if Piccolo had to train them both, they'd have been training off of each other, and yeah. Or that would have been interesting if they had to try and find each other. If they were training, they were left in different places to train, like in that 1 year time.
One with Kami, one with Piccolo.
Yes. Oh, that would have been cool.
That would.
Been a good way to
That would have been interesting, because especially if Piccolo kind of actually did manage to succeed a little bit in making Gohan kind of like the poster child for his side, right? And then you've got the poster child for Kami's side. You kind of have that two sides of a coin almost, of like Gokin and Goki from Street Fighter 2, and them having like dueling pupils in Ryu and stuff like that. And it would be interesting. There are a couple of ways you could go about addressing it, but it really depends on how fanficky you want to get it.
Yeah, pretty much. Kenshin491, Piccolo used the multiform? Like, what if? I'm 3 dads now. Sup. Actually, the guys, let's do that on 3. I'm 3 dads now.
Wait. You're going to have to do it on 3.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Sup.
I'm 3 dads now.
Oh, no, that was what I was saying. It was just a sub bit. Anyway, let's not get bogged down. But basically, if Piccolo used the multiform more, he probably would have not used it on the battlefield, because Tenshinhan would have known about the weaknesses of it. It halves your power with each copy. So you'd have to use it more smartly. Like, maybe to evacuate more people, or to access somewhere that you sneak up on something, or something like that. Pretty much what Tenshinhan did. The only smart thing that Tenshinhan did in the Tournament of Power. The only smart thing.
Is it that question? Is the question if Piccolo knew it? But Piccolo knows it.
Well, no. If he basically used it more, I think.
Okay.
But if it's the case, if he had it, well, he already did.
Yeah.
And there you go. Doc Silver Online. What if Goku was just always way stronger than every bad guy? Would he just end them quick, or let the others try first? I think he would just go for it, because he wants to fight strong people. But he would always end up being frustrated that they would end up just like, being like...
If he was always stronger, it's a One Punch Man scenario.
Yeah.
He would grow disinterested, and he would grow bored and unhappy. And he would get to a point to where like he's never truly giving it his all. And and to even think about doing so just brings him to despair because he knows that nobody can keep up with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it would not end well for Goku in terms of his mental state.
He could get no satisfaction.
Master Riku recites some DBZA stuff. Shots fired, kill the bald one. Frieza did it, blah! And that's pretty much what he says. Rumred, what if Cold never gave up power to Frieza? Or what if Frieza decided that it wasn't worth blowing up Planet Vegeta, only killing troublemakers? I think pretty much it would be like the first one. So if Cold never gave up power, Planet Vegeta would still be there. Pretty much. Planet Vegeta would still be there. King Vegeta would still be a valued asset of the Cold Force. Life would go on. Like, you know, Raditz would have still gone to Earth and stuff like that to find his brother. But, you know, it would have been that kind of thing.
I mean, Goku wouldn't even ended up, you know, being sent to Earth, so...
No, but, yeah, that's true. So basically, yeah, no, life would go on, pretty much, on Planet Vegeta. That's it. White Oak 19. What if Ranch fought Devil Artemis Cell? There'd be a lot of puns, and she'd probably beat Cell because the puns are, oh my god, I can't take all these nasty, horrible puns! It's like, hey, don't worry, Cell, I'm just gonna go and split. Like you, because your name's Cell. Ah! Pretty much like that. Terrible puns. All my characters, all my OCs have terrible puns. Pretty much. That's a trademark. Ringo. What if after the Frieza saga, Yamcha wished on Earth's Dragon Ball, so every human on Earth was a full-blooded Saiyan? Similar to what we've done in our FAQ. So if you check our FAQ, you'll get a fair answer. That it's really hard for Shenron. Shenron can't make androids human again. All he can do is remove the bomb in there. That's all he can do. So and in my Krillin became a Saiyan, that's taking a lot of liberties, saying that maybe he could make one person a Saiyan based on the terminology that, you know, Krillin used. He used it as like a monkey's paw thing. But in terms of the Dragon Balls, Yamcha could probably make himself a Saiyan, maybe. But in terms of like the entire planet, it wouldn't work. So he probably would try it. Shenron would say it's beyond my power. Then he would say, oh, okay, I'll just do it on myself. There you go. Seton Tube. What if the original Broly joined Frieza and Cell against Goku in Hell in GT? Well, I think if they had the power enough to control him, maybe. But at the same time, I think they kept Broly... I imagine they'd have done the same thing they did with Frieza and kept Broly locked up. Actually, wasn't that the case? That Broly was locked up, like, deep in the bowels of hell?
Yeah, and they had to, you know, cut it back with Pycon in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Dragon.
Oh, okay. So basically...
No, sorry, in Bio Broly? In Bio Broly. Yeah,
I think something like that, yeah. So, something along those lines. Red Dragon Force. Kawaii Country asks, what if Beerus Hokkaido Bulma when she slapped him on her birthday during Battle of...
Oh.
I'd imagine that would have been Super Saiyan 3. That would have been like...
Yeah, Vegeta would have said, screw the stamina loss. I'm going to go to the highest amount of power that I can right now. It wouldn't have meant anything.
I think everybody would have gone in on Beerus. Everybody.
Yeah.
And to be honest, if that had happened in the movie theater, everyone would have been in shock.
Yeah.
That would have been just like, oh my god. And honestly, they'd have never forgiven Beerus. Ever.
No. Never would have happened.
No. I mean, no. They would have just been like, screw your power. You killed one of our friends. You're an enemy, pretty much.
Yeah.
Oof. It's too horrible to contemplate.
Vegeta was mad enough at the idea of him hitting her that the idea of him killing her, that would probably drive him freaking insane.
Pretty much like in Super the series where he's just going and the bad animation. It was just it's just Nitrex.
It would be so good that it would.
Nitrex. What if Goku got the ultimate form, not Gohan? I don't think he would have done it. Goku doesn't want to earn power. He doesn't want to like be given it. He wants to earn it. So
he's also not very patient.
No.
He was getting really, really impatient just trying to
looking.
sit there and yeah, just looking.
Yeah, basically by just watching. So basically, yeah, no, I don't believe that would have happened. But if he did, he probably would have done the duty because he'd had much more ability to be, hold on to his faculties. So basically, he might have been able to get the job done. But
Gohan has always had an arrogance problem whenever he's on top, whereas Goku doesn't quite have that same thing. Like, he will give most villains a chance, but by this point in the timeline, Super Buu had completely eliminated all life on Earth, essentially. So Goku would understand, like, if he got the ultimate power, he'd be like, okay, I go down there, I finish the job, we get everybody back, and we're golden. If he manages to wait for it.
I wonder if Fidel has to deal with that arrogance when Gohan's on top.
Oh, God.
Sorry. Had to.
That is the second time in this stream that I have wished that I was there so that I could smack you.
Will Beeman. What if Tarbell was relevant? In other words, what if he was part of the same arc? Well, we've covered this before, actually, because basically, if he was, then he probably would have just been like a second or third fiddle to, like, act as support, pretty much. His power, he'd have probably been there in some other capacity. But again, we have covered this before.
Man in the chair.
Man in the chair. He's the guy with the info. He's the one that goes, I'm in, and stuff like that. Nick Sorensen. What if Krillin becoming a Saiyan somehow led to Krillin Black in the future arcs of Trunk or Super? It depends, really. Unless, basically, Zamasu took personal offense to the fact that there was a mortal who was trying to become another type of mortal. But again, it depends on whether Krillin goes with Beerus and Whis and Goku to meet Zamasu. If he doesn't, then he won't be known to Zamasu. So
it also largely depends on whether or not Krillin's still alive. You have to ask yourself, is Krillin strong enough because of his closer relationship to Goku for a longer period of time, as opposed to, like, Vegeta, for example?
True.
Does he manage to survive that initial onslaught by the androids and help Gohan with, like, training Trunks? Because they may not have even considered the time machine option if Krillin was still alive to help Gohan take the androids down. But it all kind of depends, because in a timeline where Krillin manages to survive that initial onslaught, you have 3 potential Super Saiyans, and one of whom has been training with Goku since childhood. So it has some interesting possibilities, I think, for the Dark Future arc.
Okay. Alright, that's fair. Master Riku. Last week I mentioned Super Saiyan Stealth. What do you think of it being where the hair stays regular Saiyan black color, but styled in the same as Super Saiyan, and allows a Saiyan to move silently? Having what Krillin declares as stealth mode. But basically, stealth mode is basically, it's like you decrease your power whilst also the power that you emanate is turned down, but the power that you actually use is the same. So basically, you are like wearing like a suit that basically removes your ability to be seen by a night vision camera. You still exhibit the same power. It could be useful in terms of gaming people who can sense energy, but other than that, I think that's it. So it'd be just good to just to keep yourself down, whilst also still having the same amount of power. John Belcher, what if Piccolo stayed evil? If he did, then yeah, it would have not ended well. Because basically, if he'd have stayed evil, he'd have he'd have maybe joined up with Goku, but obviously he wouldn't have cared about Gohan or like done that thing. He wouldn't have had that change of heart, and he probably would have just been like, I'm gonna try and survive this and all that kind of stuff. But any sentimentality he had for Gohan, no, that's out the window. There's just no chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he'd stayed evil, I think what winds up happening is he joins them for the sake of defeating Nappa and Vegeta when they arrive. But when Nappa attempts to kill Gohan, he doesn't get in the way. So Gohan takes the blow instead. Goku shows up. Goku sees that his son has been killed, and Goku loses it. He utilizes Kaioken at its highest potential possible to eliminate Nappa, eliminate Vegeta, and maybe even eliminate Piccolo if he's angry enough about it, because Piccolo was kind of supposed to be there to protect him essentially at that point, as far as Goku was aware, because they were all fighting for the same cause.
Yeah.
But because of this, what winds up happening is, because Piccolo's still alive, if Goku refrains and doesn't kill him because he knows it'll kill Kami, then they have to use their Dragon Balls to wish back Gohan, and they have no reason to their mind to have to travel to Namek, which means that in the long run, Frieza wins.
Yeah, it unfortunately Frieza does win. Yeah, you pretty much
Mhm.
said what I was going to say. So there you go. Seaton asks,
Ah,
"What if
sorry.
Shenron?" No. I'm saying I concur. What if Shenron could grant 3 wishes from the very start, like the first time you see him? If they'd have done so, they basically would have had to rattle through all the wishes quickly before Pilaf could, and Pilaf nearly did. So basically, Oolong wishes for panties. Boom, that's one. They have to come up with another one. Bulma would have probably had to wish for the perfect boyfriend or something like that. And then they had to come up with a third wish before. You'd have to try and subdue Pilaf to not make him talk or make any of them talk. Pretty much, it'd been very difficult to try. It would have been a major tussle. It would have actually added more peril to the end of that arc to make you go like, oh god, you have to try and find ways to stop Pilaf talking.
It would be kind of funny to for Oolong to chime in and change every chime into every wish and change it like.
No, he goes like, I wish for panties. I wish for more panties.
No.
It would be
like
the panties.
It would be like I wish. Bulma's like I wish for the perfect, and he's like baby.
Oh,
Baby,
okay.
Oh my
Alright,
god.
moving on. Kenshin491. What if I audition for R&R again? Any advice? Well, yeah, Kenshin, there will be auditions for episode 6 in the new year, probably. So basically, I would say just go for it. I would just say, take your time, know your strengths, have a go if you want, but also, try and come up with your own interpretations, because I do like that when you come up with an original interpretation for a character. But if you want to...
And make sure that you have good working equipment.
Good working equipment and good work ethic, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, because remember that, you represent the chat, you represent R&R, you also represent my channel. So you represent me, in a way. So you want to be sure that you have a good work ethic and good morals and all that kind of stuff. Basically, you have to turn good, which is the ethos of the channel. But yeah, that's all really. I just give it a go, and there will be more auditions to come. White Oak, what if Ginyu swapped bodies with Frieza? If he was able to...
We've answered this one before,
We have
I
answered
believe.
this one, but in short, if he was able to pull it off, basically Frieza would say, Ginyu, put my knee back in my body right now! Oh really? What are you going to do about it? I'm going to... Yeah. Basically, Ginyu would have had to run
I'm
away.
going to tell my daddy on you.
You wouldn't, Lord Frieza!
I would. Now give me back my body.
Pretty much that. He just said, I'd have to tell Daddy. It's pretty much like
Also, yeah, keep in mind that I'm pretty sure, because Frieza is well aware of that Ginyu can do this, Frieza must have a way of defending against that, because with his paranoia, he wouldn't have somebody who could swap bodies without the ability to defend from this person.
Yeah, no, that's true. Red Dragon Force. Karen asks, how can you make Gohan great? Well, I think the manga is giving it another go. The manga's giving it another try. By basically, hopefully, abiding by the fact that, yeah, Gohan's got something cooking. The Chad knows what's cooking. So we'll have to just wait and see for that. I want to see what they do in the manga before I come up with another idea. Kenshin, expanding on what if Gohan was possessed by Pazuzu? Would it make sense if Gohan used Pazuzu to fight so he wouldn't have to? And would Pazuzu aggressiveness work well with a half Saiyan?
It still would be his body. I don't think it would be that easy, you know?
Okay, well, yeah, pretty much that's your answer, Kenshin. Not really much of a difference, and Haverok is the Pazuzu expert.
I'm not a Pazuzu expert.
Well, the best out of us three, pretty much.
Yeah.
Samurai ZK. What if Goku, Vegeta, and Broly were sent to Earth? If all three were, they'd have to be put in different areas. That's for sure.
But press the button. Press the button.
Just press the button.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Broly, temper tantrum, the Earth would have been destroyed, pretty much, or scorched or something.
Yeah, because Vegeta and Goku wouldn't be able to hold up against him.
No, pretty much. Team Valor. What if DC character Lady Shiva was part of the Dragon Ball cast? One of those types of villains that took an interest in Goku as he got stronger and was still stronger than him until he returned to fight the Saiyans.
I don't...
Say again, I was having some audio issues.
Yeah,
she's
the mother of Cassandra
the DC character Lady Shiva.
Lady Shiva. Yeah,
okay, yeah. Lady Shiva is one of the greatest martial artists of the DC universe. She's a trained assassin. And I think at some point in time, she was the leader of the League of Assassins. I don't know. The crossovers with DC are a little rough, but I think that she works for OG Dragon Ball. She is a kind of character who could work in the OG Dragon Ball setting. I don't think she actually works all that well once you start getting into the higher power levels, because there's a certain degree of believability that is lost when you're going up against characters with the kinds of powers of like Goku or even like Superman, for example. But if you were gonna put Lady Shiva into Dragon Ball, I would just say one thing, and that's that I want Cassandra Cain to be in there too.
All right, okay, well, there you go. That's basically a lot more answer than I could have said. Matthew Gaylord, what if Universe 7's mirrored Universe 6's before Frieza? If that had been the case, then well, they would have probably been more prosperous. They'd have probably been able to, like, resist Frieza in a way. Because, yeah, Universe 6, yeah, those Saiyans evolved much quicker through peaceful means. They'd have probably been able to beat back Frieza. And again, they're basically the galactic police of Universe 6. They're the galactic patrol of that universe. So basically, they probably would have been working with the galactic patrol. The Saiyans might have been the strongest contingent if they were like that. So Frieza Frieza may still have had a full force, but not nearly as big as a galaxy. So I think that's pretty much it. Trench Knife. First time public what if, so be gentle, please. We won't make any promises. Okay, no, we will. What if Gohan's failures in the Buu Z saga were used as retroactive character development for Gohan going into Dragon Ball Super? Oh, okay. That's cool. So basically, if Gohan remembered that he screwed up and that he didn't want that to happen again. So if he did that, it probably would have meant that going like, yeah, I probably should train a little bit while I'm going to conferences and that stuff. So basically, we wouldn't have had all the stuff in the chicanery that happened in the Resurrection F arc. Like, Gohan would have still been relatively weak, but he would have been able to at least go Super Saiyan 2 and put up a decent fight. All that kind of stuff. So, I think, yeah. And also, Goku and Vegeta Goku might have been able to lock on to Gohan's ki a little bit faster if Gohan was pumping out more ki. All that kind of stuff. So, yeah. I like that one, though. I think, let's make a note of that.
Yep.
Because if we did that, what if Gohan was useful in Super?
Yeah. What if he received that much-needed character development earlier instead of just before the Tournament of Power and then having it go entirely to waste?
Yeah, exactly. So, no, good point, Trench. Logan R. What if Gohan grew up without Chi-Chi's influence? I think if Gohan grew up without Chi-Chi's influence, he still would have been a nice boy, but just less inclined to study. But just happy. He'd have been much happier, more carefree, all that kind of stuff.
But I don't think he would be all that much into fighting as his dad. Like he would be lacking something. Yeah, some more balance in other side.
He'd be a freer spirit, definitely. Coffeeman AEG. What are your thoughts on the Eternal Beauty what if in BT2? It's essentially Zarbon betrays Frieza to wish for eternal beauty. That sounds like an April Fool what if. I love that. Yeah. That sounds perfectly
that sounds like a sounds like a good April Fool.
I want to be pretty.
I love Tenkaichi 2, but I don't remember that what if. But
the joke is on him, because if I were to write that scenario, what would happen is he would wish for eternal beauty, and he would be turned into a statue made of Kachi Kachin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Ooh.
Or he would be turned into Shenron.
Ooh, dark.
Into another Shenron.
Oof.
And would be tied to a set of Dragon Balls to eternally serve.
Ooh.
And
Oh my gosh.
and
Poison
grant
chalice.
wishes. You are eternal and beautiful.
No.
Phenomenal cosmic power. Anybody living space.
Yeah.
Mac Daddy Cornflakes. What if Baby absorbed Goku instead of Vegeta? If he absorbed Goku, yeah. We have talked about this before. If Baby unlocked Super Saiyan 4, yeah, it would have been done. Because Vegeta didn't have it at the time. Yeah, they'd have been done. Because Baby would have maximized Goku's body, discovered Super Saiyan 4 in his golden Uzaru state. Yeah, they'd be done. Not much else to say. DM Cos. Not sure if this one's been done, but what if one of the erased universes was erased because their Gohan had kept training and was a threat to the Omni King, and now because of 17's wish is back. Now that's something we did talk about, sort of, but basically just that, you know, Goku makes the wish instead of 17, but the universes are brought back, but Goku takes it too literally, or says it literally. And then all of the universes are brought back. And then it's up to everyone, the strongest people from all the multiverses, to then put away that baddie. Or something like that.
It would be interesting if the baddie that showed up was an alternate universe like villainous Gohan. It would add a little bit of incentive for Gohan to be a bit more centered to the plot.
Yeah.
One of my own thoughts was that the villain was going to, because we had all of that meta like in the narrative, or not narrative, sorry, in the interviews with Akira Toriyama. He really seemed like he was building up Saiyan history quite a bit, especially with regard to Yamoshi. And I totally thought that what was going to wind up happening is that like Yamoshi was going to be the threat that was brought back when the other universes were returned.
Alas, no, that's way too complex.
Alas.
Yeah.
Next one is Martin Plumley. What if these live streams could be kept under 2 hours? Well, it's going to be a miracle if we can keep it under 3. But yeah, so
yeah, we're almost at the 3-hour mark.
We're almost there. But yeah, so again, that's not possible now. Thank you for so much, everybody, for all your contributions and your ideas.
Thank you so much.
We really do appreciate it, but it does take a long time. So thank you very much for sticking around. Kenshin491, Ginyu saying, basically, I will tell Daddy. No, you mean my daddy. No, my daddy. No, my daddy now. Who's he going to believe? Because Ginyu could just go, Daddy, Ginyu's being mean. And just like,
no, Daddy, don't listen to him. I'm the real Frieza.
That's exactly what he wants you to think. All that kind of stuff. That could be really funny. Seaton Tube, similar to Broly, what if the original Bardock aided Goku to fight Frieza and Cell in Hell? He probably would, but again, as a neutral, pretty much. He wouldn't be doing it out of love.
And he wouldn't be much of a help, really.
Yeah, and that too, definitely. Sorry, Seaton. Riku again. What if Krillin hadn't been knocked out first in the TOP? If only. And actually, Toyotaro knew what he was doing. I mean, to be honest, it was such a cheap shot. If Frost hadn't done it, I think Krillin would have lasted a lot longer.
Yeah.
It's just that was such a cheap shot.
The Tournament of Power is such
mixed bag.
Mixed bag. Mixed bag. Let's leave it at that and move on.
It's a general okay. It's like not. There are.
I don't even consider it okay. There's some excellent moments of like for the anime. There's some excellent moments of Sakuga, some really intense fighting, and that's all nice and fun and entertaining. But overall, the arc is largely pointless, and the villain is dry and boring. Jiren, if you want to consider him the villain of that arc, and they do nothing with all of the extra fighters.
Yeah,
which is a
so
shame because it was a shame because they created some amazing designs.
Yeah, it's a tour de force that you're able to come up with different designs, but still, oh well.
Yeah.
Zama ZK, what if Goku and Vegeta used Potara in the Tournament of Power? Also, what Vegito? Pretty much you'd have gotten something similar. They might have fought against Jiren, but probably would have lost, and then they would have basically, you probably would have had Vegeta versus Kefla, and then loads of fan fictions would have ensued.
Yeah, but Vegeta could take out Topo.
Yeah, pretty much. I would say that's pretty much accurate. Red Dragon Force 2. What if Gohan fought Frieza in Resurrection F to get Goku and Vegeta to Earth, and before Goku fights Frieza, he asks Krillin for a senzu bean and gives it to Frieza? I don't think Goku would do that, because Frieza's beyond that pale.
Yeah.
And if he did, it would just be a play the music scenario.
Yeah, I'll play it now. Yeah, that. Let's move on. Newton. What if Cell had arrived during the Namek saga when 1718 was still inactive? Well,
he would lay low for a couple of years. He would hide and wait.
Yeah, he probably would have just reverted back to his larval state and waited. Waited a couple more years, check it, nothing, go back again, etc. Rinse and repeat until he could sense them, pretty much. Matthew Gale. I'm thinking Dragon Ball happened still, but with Universe 6 Saiyans.
It's hard to happen, it's hard for it to happen in Universe 6 Saiyans because there would be no Bardock.
Yeah.
And Gina, therefore no Goku. So.
No Goku. So basically, just look to... You have to extrapolate from the current roster, pretty much. And we need to actually, go and visit there. Yeah.
I'm thinking, but I'd have to do some more thinking on it, and we really don't have enough time to give it the attention it deserves.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I kind of want to.
We may do something with this.
I kind of want to wrap things up.
Yeah.
I want to wrap things up now because it's nearly getting up to 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
I really need to pay attention.
11.
I need to pay attention to my wife, to be honest.
Yeah.
So James Bolt, what if Goku and Gohan permanently fused versus Buu? Basically, Gohan versus Buu. We've covered that in a lightning round. They do the business. They'd be able to figure something out after that. And
Chi-Chi would be very miserable.
Yes, very conflicted. Master Riku, for a joke, what if Santa Claus was a Saiyan? Goku would be happy, that's for sure. Yeah, a Super Santa. Super Santa would actually be a thing. There, go figure.
He is a Super Santa legend.
The Super Santa legend. Zamro ZK, what if Bardock and King Vegeta were revived in Dragon Ball Super? Again, I don't think they would be, but only because...
Needs another FAQ.
Yeah. Well, no, it's part of the FAQ that we've done already, but it's just basically... The only reason they'd ever be brought back by Vegeta is to fill in a power vacuum. That's the only reason. That's the only reason, pretty much. Not out of sentimentality or pride for the Saiyan race, just to fill in the gap, really. Isaiah Fraser, but Masako. Oh, hang on.
But Masako!
Goku didn't have his tail back yet when Baby was absorbing into people, so he wouldn't have been able to turn Super Saiyan 4. That's true. If that was the case, then he still would have been a kid. So he'd probably just burnt through all the power.
And Vegeta could have beaten him, actually.
He might have been able to beat him because Goku, as a kid, going Super Saiyan 3, burned through all his energy. Vegeta would have put him down.
Okay, and Vegeta would be like, damn, that felt good.
He's like,
catharsis by proxy.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm beating kids now. Again. It feels like old times on Namek.
All right, and last one, Logan R. What if the Dragon Ball third franchise existed in the Dragon Ball universe? Dragon Ball Heroes. That's Dragon Ball Heroes. That's what it is. That's the whole point. The Dragon World exists in that reality, which is ours. So yeah, Dragon Ball Heroes, pretty much. They'd make it into a card game to sell for money because marketing. But anyway, that's the last one. Woo! Just on the 3-hour mark. So thank you everybody for joining, and
Super Kamiguru.
Thank you for those of you who contributed, and we'll be seeing you either next Thursday or next Friday, depends on our schedules. But but tune in on Saturday for What If Bardock Convinced the Saiyans finale. And until then, everybody,
thank you very much.
Have a good rest of your evening, and thank you very much again. And if you want some more questions about what ifs, check out the what ifs, check out the FAQ that was launched today, and have a good rest of your night. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye. Bye.